Perfect. I just want to see how what our room looks like here. Is there anyone new in the room that just came on?
Well, we had somebody hop on and then hop off. Um,
Okay.
and we've got uh,
I see Jeff on there. Thanks, Jeff, for
No
joining
problem,
us.
guys. I'm in and out at the moment, but I can hear you.
Sure. Beautiful. Yeah. We got some good updates on the SRM, Solar Radiation Management Project front.
Post them on Ring Central, Collective Superintelligence.
Oh, I will. Oh, yeah. No worries. I will. It's kind of like breaking news too, since yesterday. I just want to make sure.
I don't see everybody from the call here either. So let's get everybody else invited over here to this as well, so we can be on there and see the docs, the updates, links, all the cool stuff.
Sure. It's constantly some new people, especially on Fridays.
And just have them either post their email here. You can send them an invite, bring them into the group that way. I'll make you an admin. I'll make you an admin if I can right
now. Oh, thank you. That'd be great.
Just make sure I can do that, because we're having issues with that the other day, not figuring out how to make people admins. There's Dylan. Okay.
And those of you here that haven't already, if you wanted to post your email addresses that just want to kind of stay updated on the Solar Radiation Management Project of the Collective Intelligence Think Tank, just post your emails in there and I will collect them. And you will be getting pretty much a subscription to all of our internal updates. Perfect. So yeah, thank you guys. Thanks, Dot. Perfect. Well, for some of you that don't know me quite yet, I'm sort of helping spearhead this, what I call a flagship project, on behalf of Collective Superintelligence, which is this group here, the Block Party. So this is one of our main priority projects that we are spearheading with Dr. Ye Tao from the Roland Institute of Harvard. And he's been putting together a lot of the data and the science and integrating a lot of all the conversations going around abrupt climate change as we understand it today. And so we are going forward, and if you don't know much about some of the earlier discussions, you can always look in this YouTube channel, live streams, or radish.org. You can find some of those earlier summaries of discussions with Dr. Ye Tao on some of the solutions, mainly towards the global dimming issues and the aerosol masking effect. Just in brief, the concept that I can actually go into it to a great length based on what's happening with the coronavirus pandemic. So one of the obstacles we're facing in real time right now is actually the fact that we're having a lot of we're having reduction in industrial activity across the world, mainly because no one's driving a lot of cars. Some airlines are grounding all their planes. You're creating, no one's going to work. There's just a lot of pausing of a lot of economic activity, and of course the economy is also crashing. So you're seeing a lot of simultaneous things happening that's creating that reduction of carbon emissions, or anything that's any pollutants really that are just putting particulates in the atmosphere. So the whole concept of that is what we have been doing over the last 20 years, we've been kind of buying us sort of there's basically like a time delay on the actual heating effect of the planet. So we're actually, because of our activity, we're actually creating like a blanket around the whole planet with aerosol particulates from, smokestacks, cars, everything. everything that's putting CO2 in the atmosphere. We're creating a blanket that constantly goes up and then rains back down. That's creating acidification in the oceans, etc. But once you start turning everything off, whether it's because of an emergency like this pandemic, or because climate change movements are trying to stop all use of fossil fuels, because they think that's going to stop things as well. The opposite seems to be the case, where if you shut everything down, and then these blankets of aerosols that are actually helping reflect a lot of the radiation coming from the sun from hitting the earth, once that shield is removed, the studies have shown that there would be an exponential heating effect that would be putting us over another degree Celsius, which would be just a catastrophic event. Even just 20% of reduction of industrial activity can start creating that chain reaction of losing that shield. So what the solar radiation management proposal is from Dr. Yitao, and what we're spearheading with him, is the idea of adding more reflectivity to some core areas on the planet that are being hit constantly with sunlight. So it's the idea of just adding more reflectivity, compensating for the loss of that blanket as we do switch over to renewable energies, and we do start the process of no longer polluting the earth, at least in the atmosphere. So it's a very delicate balance that we're undertaking, which will have to be in phases, to basically, as we're shutting down things, we're going to be putting up mirrors, or putting up other reflective technologies integrated holistically, to bring about a secondary shield covering what's falling from the sky, basically. So some of the areas that we're looking at, just to also be kind of combining what the world's already looking at as far as governments, we're actually looking at targeting deserts, stopping desertification in some areas like Mongolia, Saudi Arabia, the Sahara, Australia. That was one thought that we had, that maybe we could start focusing the initial deployment of these reflection, these reflective mirrors, starting in the deserts, to actually help the regreening of the deserts, which is a very major, large topic spoken of, in TED Talks. And if we regreen some of the deserts, that's actually going to be incredibly helpful for the entire climate change situation. And also, how you make mirrors is actually just melting sand. So there's a lot of sand there. So the whole idea, if we did start in the deserts, we could actually start, creating actual scalable manufacturing communities in the deserts that are actually melting sand and creating glass right there, powered by certain different, solar, combination of solar and other technologies. We can power these industrial communities in these deserts, and not polluting as we go, but creating on-site locations for manufacturing these. And the idea was also spoken about where we're combining solar energy in the mirrors themselves, either by focusing the mirrors into different focal points, drawing energy, creating a return on investment. If people are investing, we can sell energy. So there's lots and lots of ways of looking at this, where we're solving a lot of different problems in one package, with an assortment of different technologies that will complement each other. We have some technologies that are also generating energy, but they're also desalinating water. So that's one way of bringing some vibrancy back to the deserts, planting trees there while we're cooling the deserts down. And I'm not saying we're doing this for every desert. These are deserts that also have their own ecosystems, so I'm also aware of that concern. But it would be one way to establish what we're doing to get buy-in from governments that are also seeing desertification as a problem. And that way people can kind of get a handle on what we're doing, see it, touch it, see the upsides, including energy generation, and kind of getting a foothold in the conversation, and having the backing of some pretty empowered institutions. From the secondary phase that we're looking at is if we can get at least 20% of the deserts getting more reflectivity back, then we would start doing a phase 2 once we had a lot of buy-in and traction and experience and scaling production. We would then look to creating an array of these mirrors floating on the ocean in different areas. And that would also be integrated with aquatic permaculture technologies, growing kelp under these platforms, not kelp, but seaweeds, other things that kind of bring back some of these ecosystems that are losing a lot of their habitats. Another thought that we had too was also somehow putting these in areas that, we have these massive plastic gyres. It would be great if we could somehow collect, trash into some centralized location with these mirrors to be picked up later, put into waste to energy technologies where we're melting them down or whatever, putting them back into a recycled manner. So I do really care about cleaning up the oceans of the trash. So things like that, we're all looking at this as a phased out approach. We're not going to be shutting down fossil fuel stuff overnight. However, the coronavirus might force that to happen. So there is definitely a deadline, a ticking clock that we're under. It would be fantastic to get a scaled model planted somewhere where people and investors and governments can kind of see and have a visual of what we're doing, in the hopes of scaling that and getting more buy-in and traction. So we would love to have a scaled model within this year, end of the year, and actually start deploying these within the next 2 years, latest 3 years. I don't think we have really that much time as things are developing with the virus and the economic situation. So these are basically this is kind of how we're approaching it initially. We're looking at reaching out to people that have some influence in the blue economy. If you want to Google that, it's called the Blue Economy, where that's all about bringing back, making sure we're stewards of the oceans in a better light, having institutions looking into that. And we're looking for influencers like Greta Thunberg and her entire following, because really, it would be great to put a solution like this into the awareness of the Extinction Rebellion, Greta, and having some sort of a answer to something that is a dilemma that doesn't really have an answer, that's really being talked about like we're talking about it. But so yeah, we just need more awareness, more outreach. We have to invite more people to be part of this conversation that we're having now. And that's really where we're at. We're about to get a website built together. We have some fantastic volunteers putting together a website, working with Dr. Ye Tao on condensing the information into anyone that basically can take it in a lot, less Harvard, but more average day people. So we're trying to simplify the information, answer some key simple questions of why this is important. So we are going to start gathering a presence online as we're constructing and deconstructing the science and the vision of this from a very high level that Dr. Ye is putting out there to something that the public can handle. And people like Greta and others that are following her can handle, and more. So that's kind of the situation that we're in, and we're really at the ground floor, but every single conversation that we have about it is building more traction, building more awareness, and we're getting a lot more excited volunteers to help out with different content generation, like the website. I'm a filmmaker myself. I'm going to be probably doing some short videos with Dr. Ye Tao. It's been a little disrupted by this epidemic that we're in, but I'm definitely putting everything that I have of my resources and my contacts to bring this project to the forefront and have it be a unifying project that all of humanity can participate in, even if it's just 10% of us deploying this, and probably deploying this more in the private sector regarding funding. I don't really see a lot of the political climate helping us in the future, seeing the experiences of Greta and what she's going through. So that's a mouthful of stuff I'm throwing out to this whole group here. But I'm happy to kind of open everything up and just see if there's any injection of, you know, skill sets, participation, outreach. If there's anyone that wants to share some feedback on kind of where we're looking to go towards and goals and aims, I'm at your service. So you can raise your hand or jump right in.
Well, I'll just say at first, I think that was a really wonderful overview. So thank you for that. That was an awesome synthesis.
I'm glad it's recorded.
Yeah, I mean,
I couldn't do that again, probably, or it'll be different the next time. Thank you, Nolan. And all I'm saying too in this conversation is just think, you know, if there's something confusing about what we're doing too, I'd love to go into anything in the science, or if there's any confusion on the project itself. It is, you know, we're talking about a mega engineering project. And we're really pointing to some of the science where, you know, the main cited source was that during 9/11, all airplanes were grounded for 3 days during that attack. And during those 3 days, scientists were recording a exponential up to 1 C degree temperature rise when there was no longer any flights in the air. So they were measuring just an immediate response to ending our industrial mechanisms that are polluting those particulates. And once that all stops, more sunlight's being shined through, and then, you know, climate change, that the temperature rise is catching up with us. So that was observed at, you know, 2001. And there was a whole documentary on BBC. It's currently taken down, but you can find some leaked versions of it on YouTube with a picture within a picture, showing that entire documentary called, I think it was Global Dimming. And Guy McPherson has been bringing that up throughout his abrupt climate change career over the last 10 years or more. So those are just different sources you can look to of kind of the problem we're tackling here. So we have the climate change, abrupt climate change, and we have the coronavirus at our heels. So it's a very, we're definitely, we're hitting some rough patches to you know, move all these projects forward. It is going to take economic activity to even deploy this solution, unfortunately. So lots of things to tackle, but I think, again, it's really important to get the awareness out there to key people that can make things like this known to greater audiences. And we can do a variety of things with collective superintelligence to create a forum and a ground-swelling platform where many, many individuals can start engaging in the solution, and also contributing other ideas that we haven't thought of before of how this could also help this situation out, or, you know, adding the cleaning the ocean's trash part of it, or, you know, adding different things that can make this a much more multifaceted solution. So that's kind of what I like to see happen. And that way, it's a much more broader project with more buy-in, with different focuses. with the baseline foundation being solar reflectivity, layering the energy, layering cleaning the oceans, layering aquatic permaculture, layering. I mean, who knows? There's probably going to be more. But that's for us to develop and inject as this global mind is coming together. It's all about, finding the pieces that we're not seeing and bringing them together and making those new synapses connections as we're forming this new collective mind here and now. So
Hey,
yeah, any comments? Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta just real quick, James. Dylan, are you, just so I know like what your situation is and how I can help co-facilitate. I'm on a laptop, so I can see everyone. I guess I kind of assumed you were on a phone, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I am.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. I'll just keep my eyes out for people raising their hands and stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. And I'll look at the chat too. So
Okay.
Dot had said earlier, sorry if I missed the breaking news you were sharing. I've been here for 8 hours. And then
there's no real breaking news. It's just one of the breaking news items was after a conversation yesterday with Dr. Ye Tao, we were actually looking at starting in the desert regions in concert with governments that are looking at that as a real issue for some, that would allow us to kind of build the concept out, deploy it on land first, and actually start a manufacturing component where we could actually start taking a lot of that sand and turning into glass and start actually rolling that out into the ocean from that foundational starting point. So that was just one new direction that we were focusing on. We were thinking of initially going into the ocean first, but it might be actually easier and more cost effective to get more traction and buy-in by starting on land and in land regions like deserts that no one uses anyway. So that, and then adding to the initiatives out there for greening the deserts. Some people say if you green, if you green a majority of the deserts, that would be a significant portion of the solution to climate change. So, yeah, if that makes sense. Anyone else?
James has a comment.
Go for it.
Just two things there actually. One for Nolan anyway. Nolan, can you see there if there's like how many YouTube viewers you have there?
Oh, sure. Yeah, let me check on that.
Sorry, what are we waiting for?
Oh, I'm checking the YouTube stream to see what our audience numbers look like. I think we had some friends that were trying to tune in. It says we've got 11,
Sorry, what are we waiting for?
I guess 13 watching now. I'm checking the YouTube stream to see.
There's the YouTube stream I'm hearing.
No, I just wanted to see there if there was, if you could tell if there was many people or whatever tuned in from Ireland or whatever, because I know it's getting late here anyway. So, yeah, I think it would be a good idea, like if you kind of every now and again, maybe just if you see that you have a number of YouTube viewers, that maybe you could kind of remind them like how to get onto the link through the radish.org link to get onto the conversation, because I know a lot of my friends have been having complications, and they're not computer literate, as you know. Not everybody is computer literate, you know what I mean? But they can have a conversation. They just can't seem to get onto it. So I think you might need to kind of every now and again, periodically, let them know, like let people know how to get through, or the link on Radish.
Nolan, isn't there a Zoom link in the description of the YouTube stream page?
Yes, there is, and on in the description of the Facebook stream as well.
Okay.
And you can also go to radish.org, click on the picture that says Collective Intelligence Block Party, scroll down and there's instructions to join. There's a link to join directly the Zoom conference, and also you can dial in by phone. So if you go to radish.org, Collective Intelligence Block Party banner, scroll down, you can get that information. And thank you, James, for reminding me. We definitely need to be doing that. I see Michael has his hand up.
Yes, Michael.
Okay, this is Michael in Connecticut. Just a couple of quick comments. The timeline that Dylan just outlined in terms of getting started and prototypes within a year and then enter production in 2 to 3 years, and that actually sounds realistic, but it also may be too long.
Too late. I know.
And so I don't know if it's worth thinking about or trying to articulate a shorter timeline. But the fact is, right now with this economic downturn, and I don't know where to find this, but I think that we're going to start seeing evidence, and maybe Arctic News will carry it, or Guy McPherson will point us in the direction to look at measurements and to actually see, in real time the effect on abrupt climate temperature because of this downturn in economic activity caused by the coronavirus scare. So, go ahead.
Sam Carana just had breaking news, I think even today, that we just passed the 2C mark today or this week.
Yeah. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to say is that it also sounds like a really good news and smart that that you're considering deploying the mirrors on land first, because I have trouble wrapping my mind around how we're going to keep them intact in the ocean, given the conditions that can exist in the oceans with 30-foot waves, not uncommon whatsoever, and how that's going to work. And I do have the question, though, and I don't know if anybody has any feedback on this, but the albedo of the deserts is probably pretty high. It's probably fairly reflective. So are we, are the mirrors going to be not as effective in that environment and in that context than they would be if they were deployed in the ocean or in an area where the albedo was, or the reflectivity was lower? And
great comment there. Yeah, I will say right off the bat, you only need to cover 2% of the ocean for the reflectivity that we need, and then you would need probably 20% more than that on land, especially in the deserts, because you're right, they are already offering some reflectivity by the coloring of the sand. So you're looking at, we would have to deploy more mirrors on the land to cover the same type of reflectivity the oceans would need, right?
Yeah, and Dylan, has anybody, or does anybody have the numbers that they can float just in terms of square miles or some unit that maybe we could relate to what 2% of the ocean surface means in actual area, and what 20% of the desert area actually means in
we're in the kilometer range.
Kilometers might work. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's in the kilometer range. I actually don't have that. I think even Jamin might even know, but he's not here with us. But I don't know. Do you remember?
Kilometer is not a range; it's a unit. It's a unit of measure.
But I mean, it's probably hundreds of kilometers.
Oh
if
yeah,
not
it's
more.
probably more than
You know.
it's probably more than that, and that's why I'm asking the question.
Right,
but
right.
I there's an exercise I've been meaning to do, which is to simply Google the question, what's the area of the oceans, and then multiply that times 0.02, and that's a.
Oh, there you go. Great.
I'll get.
Dot in the chat says 240,000 square kilometers, I believe, the size of the.
Thank you, Dot. Yep, there you go. That makes sense.
And then I think James has it had his hands up or hand up. Maybe
Me?
not.
Yeah. I know. I was just saying that. I think in the first video there, that Dr. Yatow gave a presentation there about a week or two back. He did go into that with the measurements, and he has all the calculations. It's mathematically down to a fine point. So I'm sure if you look at back at that video, you'll see he has it not only he has the square footage of the size of the mirrors required per one compressed ton of CO2. He has the size of the mirrors and the size of the array of mirrors that would be needed to be spread out across the equator, which will get the biggest bang for the buck, as he put it. So, I'm sure, you have a lot of questions yourself, and I'm glad you're asking these, because I have another one myself. But if you were wanting to carry on yourself there, Michael, but I was just interjecting there, saying that if you check that video there on Dr. Yatow's presentation, you'll get a.
I think that was directed at me, James. And are you saying the video from Yatow's presentation on one of these initial collective superintelligence get-togethers?
Yes, I will post a link actually in the chat where you can see a summary of Guy McPherson speaking with Yatow in I think it's only 10 minutes, but it goes over the entire proposal. Let me find that really quick.
Okay, great. I might have seen that, but I definitely will check it out. Thank you.
Or even if you look at last week's one there at the start as well, when we were talking with yourself there, Dylan, and Sandra, Dr. Yatow was giving her the explanations as well. He gave her the measurements and that as well. And I think Michael would find that an interesting conversation as well if he missed last week's one. It's the start of last week's conversations.
This is just a more condensed version, but here you are. Hold on. And now you have it. Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you, Dylan. I also have a link to the segment James was talking about. I'm not sure exactly where you would find the number. The segment I just sent you is 2 hours. I don't think
it's part 3 of 13, I think. Or 3. It's number 3 anyway in the conversations, and Yatow comes on in the start of that.
Yeah, so if you follow the link I just sent Michael, it should take you directly to that segment. And then for everyone's future reference, if you go to radish.org, click on the Block Party banner, or just go radish.org/block-party. You can scroll down, and below the schedule, we have an archive, and we're going to be linking all of the scheduled events to the recordings, excuse me, after the fact. So that's where things are archived. And I can send you a link to that if you'd like as well, Michael.
I actually am tuned into the Radish website, so I'm all set.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, any other comments or feedback? Questions?
Yeah, I'll go on to my second question there now, because the first one was about listeners, but just the other one is for yourself anyway. No, you were going on. You were referring to the greening of the deserts there earlier, and I have a question or two about that. All right, in the sense like that, I missed the start of your conversation last week when you were actually talking about on Thursday actually was the one where you were talking about the plans there for the re-greening of the deserts and that. So I missed the start of your conversation that night. But funny enough, no, prior to that, the week before, when we were talking about SRM and Sandra was on about, you know, when she was telling the realistic side of trying to get funding and everything else, and saying like that, you know, the realities of getting funding. She was saying like if we can show them more kind of ideas, not just like the SRM is the priority. We all know that, but she was saying if we can throw out some more ideas, and so the greening of the deserts was something that I had been thinking about myself. Well, not the natural deserts, because you can't regreen it, like that's natural desertification, as I said. As far as I know, you don't really regreen one of them. It's only land that has been barren land that had been once, you know, thriving. There's still a bit of life in the soil, so to speak, if it's regenerated. But my question is, I've looked up at I've done a small bit of looking into the idea of regreening, and obviously the main priority is water. And I know that you were talking about that there's new technologies there now, because I was looking into different technologies as well for desalination and distillation of water, and the differences between the different types of desalination processes. And like reverse osmosis would be probably the best one, in the sense of that it's the only process of desalination that takes out other organisms, such as even distilling doesn't do this. It doesn't take out organisms such as chemicals that have been leached into the water system in the first place. Distilling doesn't kill those, doesn't get rid of those actual chemicals, because they can still live in the molecule form in the steam. So reverse osmosis is a pressure system where it's forced through a filter membrane system, the water, and these membrane systems are fine enough to take out all those trace elements as well, which would be necessary, obviously, if you wanted to reuse that water, not only for people to drink, but to regenerate the land, because you can't be regenerating the land with toxic water on a minute scale. So my question is, or not questions, I have questions. I'm just saying the points I'm making here now is I'm just curious as to know. I obviously know you're anybody. I'm not, as I said, I'm not an engineer, but I do look into things just to try and understand them a bit better myself. That's all. So yeah, I like the reverse osmosis. I'd imagine those people out there and that you've been on about now with these new technologies and about the solar generators and everything else like that for generating power. And there's also, you know, solar generators that can, you know, distill water. And I'm just thinking like a combination of both, like if a type of technology where you had, you know, I don't know, no, I mean, like you have massive platformed oil rigs, offshore oil rigs there, drilling oil and gas all over the world anyway. So they would stand the worst of weathers in the North Sea, in the North Atlantic and what have you. So I'm talking about if you had offshore kind of solid rigged platformed stations that were, you know, built a little taller than the normal, so that, as I said, anything that's going to be designed in the water is going to have to be designed outside normal parameters of climatic changes, because we're going to start experiencing far greater and stronger climatic changes, and especially in the oceans. So anything we put out there is going to be, it's going to be facing things that we can't really think of or imagine at the moment. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, people couldn't imagine the coronavirus was going to spread around the place, and now look at us. So, we that's what I'm saying. Some people just don't look too far ahead. I have an awful habit of doing that. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Point is, I was thinking about large platforms like that, solid rigged platforms like oil rigs of some sort, and separate platform stations then that would be like based on the idea now just water here now and energy combined. And I was thinking like some form of solar energy, solar generator to heat water, to distill the water. That's your that's one process of desalination anyway. But while you're distilling the water, then on that station you're also generating energy, not only to run the station itself, but the surplus energy then can be fed inland to the people who need it inland, or whatever needs pumping stations inland, whatever. But it'll also pump the water separately then to other separate stations, which would be reverse osmosis stations and pumping stations as well. Those, they would also use the gravity of water then from the reverse osmosis pumped down at a downhill, a steep hill, to use that gravity then to generate even further energy again and pump that, inland or wherever that's needed. So you're getting the double barrel kick for your electricity energy needs from the two stations, and they're being run by themselves in the self. But the water that's going inland then, there's another question there I have then for that is, at least at that stage anyway, you already know your water's clear. And if you, like the water that's going inland, I looked at this project I spotted there, and it was about pumping fresh water right across the continent of Africa from one east to west coast, and to start to provide water for a lot of places along the equatorial line of Africa there, where the Sahara starting to meet the Midlands of Africa, where the desertification is starting to take over, basically. So they're trying to prevent it there by bringing the water there to the desperately needed people that need it as well. But the only thing I didn't see on any of those plans, and I just want to query it here, is would the idea of getting the water inland, would it be bringing it inland in pipes and just having it there in the pipes where it can be tapped off for the people? Or would it be used to irrigate fields to make crops as well? And is that the idea? Like,
it would be a mega engineering challenge in itself, but the idea would be we would have, I mean, this is my large scale vision, which we have technology to do this, but we would have autonomous, like, let's say, digging robots that could actually build or create canals, canal system, irrigation systems through the desert portions that we want to start with first. You could have a desalination plant by the ocean's coast, right? That you can then start drawing in water. You can then be putting that water through, generating electricity while you're desalinating water. You're then piping it into the beginnings of these canals. That would be literally desalinated water. You'd be filling those canals up with the water. Then you can start, introducing plant biology. You can start introducing soils. You can probably start even growing hemp, which would be another way to start creating a purification of the not the dirt but the sand. There's a lot to it that I'm not an expert on, but I know that the main concept would be is just to create and outline channels of water, desalinated water, and from there you can start doing basic agriculture, maybe planting trees, and any plant biology that can kind of handle the desert terrain as it is, and start building an ecosystem. And then from there, once everything's kind of tamed, you can start introducing other biologies like trees, literally trees, or shrubberies. There's some shrubberies out there that can, I think, take down like incredible amounts of carbon. I forget what they're called, but there's a lot of different biology that could be also carbon sinking as well. And then while we're doing that too, we're putting mirrors in specific placements. We're creating energy that way, solar energy, and we're cooling the area down. So these ecosystems can start having a temperature that works for them. Water helps tremendously with the temperature as well. And seaweed, you're right, Dot. Yep, seaweed. Seaweed as a what is it called? I'm losing my words. Seaweed as a manure, but not manure. What is it called? Fertilizer. There we go.
Fertilizer or nutrient. Yeah.
Thank you, Dot. Yes. So yeah, it would be basically along those lines. I did post a YouTube video of a TED Talk that's one of the biggest ones on regreening the deserts. I forgot the gentleman that actually is on there at the moment, but I think Jamin said he actually had that gentleman on one of these calls in
Alan Savory.
Previous.
And yes.
Yeah. If you want to go into that, Nolan, what happened there?
Sure. Well, we had him on because we are also connected to Silas Rao, who, for those that don't know, is a leader in the vegan community, a huge leader of Climate Healers and Vegan World 2026. And there was some animosity basically between the vegan community and the Alan Savory community of holistic land management, which use animals to reverse desertification. And so
I see.
We had some intense conversations there.
Would he be able to come back, or is he? I mean, I would love to bring him back for this. If you're still in contact.
Very interested in collective intelligence, and him and Jamin seem to get on pretty nicely. So I sure hope so. And he said he was into the vision, and he was down to help. Of course, I'm sure he's a busy man, but yeah, I would love to get him back on here. I think that's a very real possibility.
Just sorry, Donald, just to continue there. So, because I when I asked you there what the plan was when you got the water there, and yeah, just to further that query there, no, is again, like the idea of getting in machinery and that, then to dig out channels and canals, like that would be, I suppose, to dig necessary irrigation and everything else like that, I suppose. Like, but
correct.
Yeah, like I'm don't get me wrong. No, again here, no, like I'm reiterating again, no, that I'm not an engineer of any means. Like, but I'm just throwing out it's a question basically. I'm just asking this was, but rather than going to the trouble of digging channels and all this is what I'm thinking, like, because the idea of regenerating something and bringing it back to life, I don't understand why we still as humans think that when we do it we should alter it from what it was, and because that's not bringing it back to what it was. It's bringing it back to an altered state again. It's bringing it back to a pipe in the middle of the country with dependency. Obviously, no, everything depends on the water coming in, but that water would be irrigated into fields to grow crops, or not, food forests, and which I'd hope it would be food forests and and crops and what have you. And I know I'd be using the mirrors, and I'm aware of the SRM on land as well, so that will be helping the situation. But
even grass would help, you know.
Exactly. But my idea is, like, rather than waste the time digging channels and everything else, like, if on the way inland, if this comes to fruition, we say, and these stations were desalinating stations and everything, and pumping stations were built just off the coast, and they started getting the pipes laid inland, why not bring the pipes, follow the path of the dried up rivers, the rivers and the estuaries that led into the deltas? As Dr. Yetow said, it's when the goodness and the nutrients of the land flow down into the deltas and is pushed out into the oceans, that those nutrients then feed all the kelps and the life on the coast, you see. But if we just pump water inland and irrigate it out into the fields so that we water crops and all sorts of other tree life and everything else, that's grand. I know that will regreen it and everything else, and there'll be a food source there and everything. But it's dependent as well on the water coming in. Obviously, it's dependent on the water coming in. But if you brought those pipes inland, following old estuaries and riverbeds that have already dried up because of the climate change, and you follow those inland until you get to where their sources were, and according to the size of those estuaries, rivers, or whatever, the piping and the amount of water that would be pumped to those would be allocated in size or tonnage of water per second, whatever the way they measure it, for those particular estuaries and streams and rivers. But as you go inland, with your piping, when you get to a source of one particular estuary or stream, then you can bring in your machinery maybe on the crest of, or just above that estuary where the source used to be, and fill your main source, a source of water that would flow into that estuary, that would make its way straight down into where the delta was, the closest one to the delta. You carry on with your pipe, following the other one that trickles another estuary and river up further, until each estuary leads into the main river stream. So you're following the veins of the rivers and everything, in other words, with the pipe, but following mainly the main river route, if you can get my meaning.
And they're ancient riverbeds that we can follow.
Exactly. Right. And you have little thin estuaries heading off of them, which once were viable river sources, and they fed the ecosystems around the place then naturally. But those dried up, the small streams and estuaries dried up first. It was the riverbed, the larger river source, eventually trickled down and died off then as well. But that large river source as well came from a main source. So that's where you're heading with your main pipes anyway, is for the main river source, wherever that was. It's usually in the mountains somewhere, I know that. But if you're doing that, and along the way, obviously, as you said, you're using your solar panels and energy for the pumping stations to help it on its way uphill or whatever else. But you eventually get the main river source anyway. But by the time you do, you've already turned on the taps on all the little tributaries and streams on the way down, and they're trickling into the main river body down here. So before you even get to your main source and finish your pipe, it's already doing its work before, after you just initially started. From the first little tributaries off the main river going into the delta, it would be starting to flow down and starting to regreen the area. It could be replanted when you know what I mean? So, it's all saving time, rather than just think of, okay, we build a pipe and we get it across the country, and then we start digging drains and no. As you're going, spread the pipe, irrigate through the natural streams, and start planting up. Then that's the way I look at it anyway. I think and the necessary nutrients as well that can also be put into the waters. Separate pipes can be kept for humans for drinking water and everything else, and the pipes are going into the water. They could be added with the different nutrients that might be required for plant growth, nitrogen and phosphates and things like that. But just suggestions anyway, but throw it in there.
Very well said, James. Yeah, and also on my perspective, I would need Alan Savory to actually be more of the expert on how to even do all of this. I'm not a regreening the desert expert by any means. I just know that that's a real issue, and part of Sandra's involvement and her thought was we would get a lot more buy-in from her institutional backers if we combined our project with something like regreening the deserts. In Saudi Arabia's case, the Emirates. Oil money. They're building future cities in the middle of nowhere in deserts in some cases, and that's what they're trying to do. That's all the land that they have. So that would be something I would love to integrate into the conversation with Savory and his feedback on how to actually do this. I mean, we might even be able to do a lot of this by just sheer seawater with the ocean minerals that are in that water. Maybe we don't need to have purely just desalinated water. There's just a lot of things that I don't know on the process, but I have to do a lot more research. But this whole topic came around from Sandra as like, this is a way to get the bigger institutions involved tackling this. And I did post Alan Savory's YouTube TED Talk also in the chat if you guys want to check that out. It's about 20 minutes laying out what his plan is. And he says if we did that simple thing, we would actually be mitigating a lot of the climate change scenarios. But yeah, very good points to take in. I'm sure we're overcomplicating it too. I'm sure it's a simpler process than we're elaborating on. Usually simplicity is the best way to go. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's my. I always kind of think of what's. It's not about the quickest route, obviously, and but it's about the most efficient route, is what I mean. Like, but yeah, no, it just occurs to me like that. Riverbeds, they're dried up already. They're already leading straight to the source, straight to the deltas and everything else. So why not, use them for that? Because that's what they were there for, and that's how the lands were naturally irrigated anyway. Like, so why do we think we have to remake it when we could use the natural, the natural lay of the land already?
Right.
And just plant around that. And as you're doing it, and as you're irrigating while you're starting off, you're planting already, and you're already you're already creating food for people, and then enough food then there'll be more than enough surplus after a while for the people in the areas that are in need of it and what have you. That it become an import, you'll be able to export it and move it out around the place. So it's just something that'll grow, but it's growing as the pipe is going. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's growing as the pipe is going. Yeah, basically.
Piecemeal.
And as regards to the seawater, yeah, there it has to be desalinated, obviously, because it would poison the land if there was salt in it. But
right.
Yeah. No, I was saying that I need thrown in the idea of putting in nutrients, because I did a bit of gardening myself in my day, so I know about adding a bit of nutrients to the water to give the plants a bit of a boost in nitrogens and phosphates, and are usually the things that are used to get the right adjustment for, like, nitrogen promotes growth, and then phosphagen produces fruit growth as well. Then after that, like in the growing seasons, but
right,
those might not be necessary anyway, because once it starts going into the soils and following the riverbeds, it gathers its own nutrients out of the soil anyway. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Once the water isn't polluted, that's all it is, like, basically. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Carry on. Sorry.
It's great. No, this is great feedback. Yeah. That's what this is about. We need the collective mind to have their eyes on this as we develop it, and just bring on the experts and bring on the knowledge that we need and require, like a new mind coming together. I really, Nolan, I think we should try to reach out to Savory, and that would be an incredible conversation to reconnect with, if that's possible.
Totally.
just some goals to set, you know.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting, like, once we have, I mean, it's one thing to, you know, look forward to getting just one individual like Greta, you know, but it's another thing to think about, not even Greta tier people, so to speak, but that are combined are just like incredible forces. I mean, it's gonna
new synapses, right? New synapses, just, you know, merging ecosystems, merging professional ecosystems, merging movements, is what we're talking about. You know, imagine, you know, Greta surrounding herself or just participating in these politicians that don't really know anything of what's going on. You know, yeah, it'd be one thing that, you know, imagine if we could be of help to her, just bringing her the experts that could really offer clear solutions that she could rally behind with her movements that she's spearheading, right? Again, another offering, another gift to her if she participates with us. And that's, you know, we're just one call away, one Zoom call away to kicking that off with her. We already have access to her team, and we're just kind of working around, you know, how do we initiate that conversation in the coming weeks. So I'm sure she's also quite distracted with things at the moment too. So you know, we have the links, we have the ways in to start those conversations very soon. And we're just preparing for those conversations right now. So they're not going to seem like a waste of time. And, you know, she's a public person right now, so I'm sure a lot of people want her attention. We just have to be ready when we have her attention. In due time, that will happen. Mm-hmm. Totally.
James.
Yeah, just in relation to there, to the Greta situation as well. I was saying there a couple of weeks ago, we were on about celebrities as well, getting celebrities on board, and I was saying, you know, for this early stage, people can be distracted by celebrity as well, but with Greta, no, that's a different situation. She's a celebrity for the right reasons. But no, I'm only going by my observations now here when I've been following Greta on her journey now since she started, because she's a unique individual in this world, like, that's been quite honest. And I believe like that all our young children at the moment are unique individuals, and I don't mean that we're all unique individuals, you know what I'm saying? No, but there's something about this younger generation, and everybody would agree with me there in that sense. There's something about, some people have an expression calling them the star children and things like that, and you know, but everybody seems to say about their grandchildren, or even their own sons and daughters, like that they're leaps and bounds ahead of us when we were young, and they're far more capable of understanding stuff that we don't normally think that they would be. And I think it's because we sometimes underestimate our children, that because we underestimate them, they sense that, and they then tend to kind of cover up and shell up, you know, kind of retreat into a shell sometimes, rather than be extrovert and come out and speak. As Jamin says, if you have something to say, like, and you interject and you say something, you put your hand up and you want to say something, you just say something, you know. That's what we're encouraged to have a conversation here. But sadly, a lot of kids feel, I'm not saying that they're being made that way, no, most of the time it's unintentional from adults, but a lot of kids feel that they're not entitled to give opinions about certain things like that. Other kids are very much outspoken now as well, but point I'm making is that I believe, like, for one anyway, Greta is a unique, even unique among all those young people as well, in the sense that she has interjected and she has made her voice heard, and she's inspired a lot more of the children now today, like, to do that. And that's what we need. And I look at her over her journey, and God love her, I'd be looking at her, and sometimes I could see her tiring, because she's a child. We forget that, like, and I could see her tiring because she's trying to do so much, you know what I mean? And she's obviously putting a lot of time and effort into it for a child, like, and we have to remember that she is a child, like. And so, you know, and I know a lot of kids as well, like, because social media can be cruel as well, like, a lot of kids, because they don't understand the topic of the situation, and again don't understand the severity of it, don't take her too serious in one sense, and then you have a lot of the more like-minded kids like herself then that are jumping on board with it. So she's reaching a large audience, is my point, and I agree with you there. But I also wanted to kind of, you know, express a slight bit of caution about approaching her to come on this forum, and not to be expecting her to do too much or anything, because I think if we just asked her if she could just in her own time tune in on YouTube there without having to take part, nobody would even know she's there, and get an idea of the conversation going on, and in her own time make her own a little 5-minute video in her own time, and send it out to her followers, and encourage them to maybe tune in here and give them the links to tune into this conversation. And then that would, you know, that would suffice just to get the numbers here alone. Anyway, if Greta gives that 5-minute video, and then you're not actually asking her too much of her either as well, because honest to God, I think the girl needs to have a little bit of a rest. She really does deserve it, like, but I mean, I commend her for everything she's done. She is a saint in a sense, like a modern day saint, like, and I do mean that, like. So, but I do believe that even saints need a little bit of a rest. So I don't think we should ask too much of her. 5-minute video would be plenty to get her supporters to tune in here with us as well. Like, once it's given, you know, she obviously she's a wizard with words. She'd know what to say herself anyway. So I just said I'd suggest that.
Totally taken in on that front. Yeah, really simply an endorsement is really it. And then talking about us where she is speaking would really be helpful. Am I coming in loud and clear? But
you were getting pretty stretched out and broken up there for a little while. Yeah, you're still breaking up. We can't hear you if you're talking.
Okay.
Oh.
Probably going on my Wi-Fi.
Dylan says he will try his Wi-Fi. And he says, totally agree with you, James.
If you want there, Dylan, or Nolan, sorry, I can take a couple of minutes, about 4 or 5 minutes off your hands anyway here, if you want me to share something, a little video. I think some of the, whoever's the participants tuning in might be might get a bit of an uplift off of it anyway. It's a little video of my niece, or my grandniece actually. She's only 4 going on 5 in at the moment, but she's been speaking with a vocabulary of far beyond her means from the age of 1.5 to 2. She's astounded us, and again, no, as I said, like all the children that are of this younger generation, they're just way out there altogether. But she was talking to my sister, who is her grandmother, and her grandmother was videoing her while she was talking to her, and she was giving her grandmother a lecture about grace and about sharing. So if you want, I'll play that. It's just a couple of minutes.
Sure. Did you want me to screen share it for you?
I can put it on the screen share. Can I just hit the share button and get the video up, is it?
Yeah.
I think it will anyway. If it doesn't come up, you can let me know, sure. Sorry, no.
No worries. No worries, Dylan. It's all good.
Go on, I'm not sure. I'll have to try that now again. Sorry.
You're frozen on my end, James.
Yeah, 1 sec. I'll leave it for a few seconds, and I'll tune out for a second, and after I saved this from my device into my gallery there, into my photos or videos, but I can't seem to get at it down now for a second.
Oh shoot!
If you bear with me for a sec, like I'll try it, like.
Okay.
I'll just tune out. If there's no one if no one wants to talk, that is like.
Oh no, I please.
Yeah. It might take me a minute, or half a minute.
Sure. Well, I guess while you're working on that, I'll just share part of my vision of how this collective intelligence will evolve, or part of the thing that cued me into realizing it needed to evolve. Oh, and that's good, Dylan. I just see your comment that you're still able to see in here. It's strange when you start thinking about all of these really leaders of the planet that they're unofficially leading, whether or not they're leading in the same topics, they're all unofficially leading the planet effectively as this giant leadership team. But you see them monologue quite a bit, and you see them being interviewed by journalists and all kinds of media, but you don't see, or at least I haven't seen, for instance, Elon Musk just have a, maybe, I don't know if casual is the best word, because if you're going to talk about planetary scale issues, you can only do that so casually. But But wouldn't it be awesome if like Elon Musk and Greta got together with, you know, other leaders in exactly the way we're doing, right? And can like demonstrate this, you know, demonstrate that there is this responsibility to come together, and to converge as, you know, as a species, but especially with these folks that are already in these positions of leadership. It just seems funny to me that Greta and Elon don't have regular conversations, at least that I know of. And I would love for that to happen. I think that would be so cool. And of course, I just used the two of them as an example. I think there's so many latent connections that haven't been made between some like amazing content producers on YouTube and interviewers on YouTube, and you know, certain folks that are bouncing around and being interviewed by different YouTube channels. Like that network just getting more interwoven and like intimate with itself. That's the dream. Hey, Melissa.
Hey, everybody. God, Jamin's got this up really high, so it's like, woo, now I know what it feels like to be 6'5" or however tall he is. Like a little mouse.
How are you?
Great. Yeah, really interesting day. I just got out of a teaching artist training lab, which was entirely done via Zoom. We actually worked in breakout rooms, which were fabulous. So that's, I know you and Jamin had talked about setting those up. They're pretty extraordinary. And we're using something called Flipgrid. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, where you can record conversations, and then people can comment on your recording. So it's this really interesting way of sharing information together. And there was a lot of talk, of course, about the coronavirus, including a conference that we had with a New York lawyer. And I guess Trump's declared that the U.S. is in a state of emergency, which means that federal funding will be available, I guess, for businesses and things, some businesses. But it was really interesting because so many of the people were really focused on how to sustain themselves financially. And so it was kind of interesting to be in that collective group talking about the role of art and artists and how to sustain oneself as a teaching artist. And this group were focused on this higher calling. And so I kind of seeded ideas and language today. But there was a lot of, they just don't have the language yet. They're just not focused yet. They're still focused on business as usual. And they find themselves in this crisis and think that things are going to go back to normal in 2 weeks or 4 weeks at the latest. So that was really interesting to see happening. And tomorrow will be our second day, so I will introduce them all to Block Party and see if they'll come and join.
Awesome.
And see if they can, you know, change it up.
All right.
Anyway, I just want to say, hey, I'll join you guys later. I'm pretty knackered. That was 8 hours sitting in a chair, not being able to just do a lot of work. And Yeah, everybody good? You guys having some great conversations today?
Yeah, we've had some really wonderful conversations. I was actually really bummed you couldn't be here earlier when Gaia was on, because him and Dharmendra were just going off, and I really enjoyed just absorbing that for a good 20 or 30 minutes. I'll have to send you that part of the conversation. But we talked about Steiner, and I read like some of the Wikipedia page on how do you pronounce it?
Anthroposophy.
There we go.
Anthroposophy.
Anthroposophy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that part was awesome. And then Jamin hopped off maybe an hour and a half ago, and Dylan gave us a really good summary of where things are at in the SRM world.
Oh.
And so we've had some good conversation about that for a while. And I think Dylan might still be having some trouble connecting, unfortunately. I think he can see and hear us okay, but can't talk right now. But
well, look forward to seeing the recordings later on then. And thanks for the synopsis.
Yeah.
Keep being awesome, everybody, and I see you later.
All right. See ya. Thanks for stopping by. All right. See you later, Dot. Well, is anybody else online at the moment? Oh, Emery is. Awesome. Awesome. Well, if oh, and James is here. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm here all the time. I'm still trying to find that video. I'm not joking. I'm like a gremlin when it comes to technology. I sure I break everything, like, you know what I mean? You're a gremlin. That's what I call myself, a gremlin. So I'm afraid if I try anymore, I'll break the phone. I'm not interfering with the screen while I'm messing around there, am I? Or
no,
yeah.
You haven't at all.
Right. I'm not gone, so I'm just playing around here trying to find that video.
Okay, cool.
All right, 2 seconds.
All right. Well, we've got, oh, Emery's unmuted.
And what Melissa was saying about Flipgrid, I just wanted to let you know that the Wakelet at wakelet.com there, the site that I was talking about earlier today, where you can create collections and whatnot, and a lot of great tools that are incorporated into the platform. Like as a teaching tool, or as a tool to get information out, sharing information. It's a very good integration there with Flipgrid. You have the Flipgrid camera, which as Melissa was saying, you can do commentary or whatnot. It's a very interesting platform. I made a few posts already. Tried to share them, but on Facebook, but seems that I'm shadow banned. Hardly get any response from most of my contacts. Like I've got like nearly past 360 contacts, or, you know, I don't get that much interaction for some reason, you know. I guess.
Hey, Emery, I'm back. I just, because I overheard you, and I just put, what I was thinking we could do is we could create a Flipgrid site for teaching children about collective intelligence and all the things we talk about. And we could do it in a really playful way. And I thought that could be a really great tool, especially because children are not at school now. The whole entire Washington State schools has been shut down, and the kids are at home and they don't have activities. They don't know what to do. They're bored. And so today I was thinking, wow, we could start this really cool interactive site where the children could get involved in these conversations. We could make it kid friendly. We could do cartooning, comics, we could do fun videos, we could wear goofy hats. I don't know, we could do all kinds of things. We could use puppets. I'm going to start that. So if any of you want to join me in that, I'd be awesomely happy to collaborate with you on this. I just think it's the time to do it, really. We could do, you know, have a teen room. We could have a you know, kindergarten room, and then we could have elementary and middle school rooms. So I don't know what you guys think about that. Sounds like Nolan likes the idea.
It's a good idea, Melissa. I think you should experiment with it a little bit and work with it. I mean, there are things that you could do there in the beginning that you could keep on private. That you don't have to make it public, and you could just feel it out, and see how it works for you. Yes. And then share a few aspects of it as you progress.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that even integrating the Wakelet and Flipgrid system with Zoom could be a really interesting possibility, as Zoom allows you to share your screen, and you know, you've got additional tools here at Zoom which you know, make it easier to proceed with that idea.
Yeah, that's nice, Emery. And then, you know, just listening to you, what's coming to me is with parent consent, we could have kids doing testimonials about what they love about Mother Earth or the animals. And I think that could be really powerful for adults to hear, you know, what they care about and what they care about saving, what they love.
Well, children often have insights that are very unique and very honest, and there's certainly a positive stream of effects that could precipitate from that.
Yeah, thanks, Emery. All right. I really am going this time for a bit. See you later. Love you guys.
Love you too.
Okay, take care. Yeah, I did a collection there for about getting to know Guy McPherson. So it's like you could set it up kind of like a story, like a storyboard, you know. It's really interesting. You should try it out.
Sure. Is there a way, kind of curious if I want to see like an example. I'm just signing in super quick here to see. Is there a way I can see, like, have you shared your Guy McPherson collection? Is that like a public thing, or how does that work?
I shared it on my Facebook. I did a post which will take you directly to that particular post. I did 4 so far, but the one that's more apropos for us, I guess, for now, would be the Guy McPherson one, which I just did a few posts, but it'll show you like give you an indication. You can have a look for yourself first, and if you wish to share, go right ahead.
All right. I'm just pulling you up on Facebook here. The computer's being kind of slow. And how did you find out about Wakelet?
Well, I had some content on paper.ly, which was a magazine that I started. I was aggregating stories across the internet, primarily through my Twitter feed. And I was doing that for a number of years, and then they changed the policy around, and now it's a pay-to-play system. So my account still is working, is active, but I don't have the flexibility to curate, and you know, I've lost a lot of tools that were available to me, you know, and I just don't have the finances to you know, to go deeper into that sort of thing at the moment.
I'm sorry about that. That sucks. Well, I managed to pull up let's see here. Okay. You see Get to Know Guy McPherson?
That's it. Yeah, so I just basically, you can post different when you're actually working on a collection, when you start the collection, you could set it up with a header and with pictures and whatnot, and and each, you can go for a long time. You could have I don't know, there's no set limit for a number of items in a collection, and with each segment, you have the flip grid incorporated into the into that segment. So.
Oh, okay. And so, what is? Would you mind giving me kind of a rundown of Flipgrid, because I don't know much about it?
Well, Flipgrid itself is a separate company, but Weblet incorporates their technology into their platform. Mm-hmm. So they kind of put their heads together to aid the you know, the teachers and education platform. So, but it's blossomed into a lot of other things too. People have been creative with it, and setting up all different kinds of collections, you know, on a vast variety of topics. So, you know, we have the topic of climate change. You can search for it in the Weblet, and you'll get a lot of results on climate change. So people are active in setting up you know, their collections and sharing information. If you do a search, and just, you'll see. You'll have you'll have the collections, and then actual accounts when you click on people, those are the people that you could follow and see what they're producing. If they're producing on a regular basis collections, you can follow them.
Mm. Very cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think with our collective intelligence over here, we could find ways to use that platform to get a bigger impact and proceed with what we're doing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's very clean. It's very nice. I like the simplicity of it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that too. We definitely need ways of simplifying or making sense out of making the cacophony of information that's out there. Anything to simplify and make that easier on us, I'm 100% for.
I feel the same way.
And it just makes me wonder how many platforms are out there that we don't know about yet. Because I didn't know about Flipgrid or Wakelet until today. And
well, I didn't find it that easily. I mean, I did a little bit of looking around because there are many services like that. A lot of them are, looking for ways to make money and whatnot, and so you have to look around quite a bit and find out which one is most is most well suited for what you're doing. I mean, of course, if finances aren't an issue, then of course you can proceed and experiment with a lot of them. But I don't know. I just happened to find that one. There are others, I'm sure. I mean, basically, even a Twitter account does relatively similar. It's a similar process. You're making a collection of your interests, your posts, right? So, I mean, you could limit yourself to just one topic, one interest, and you have hundreds of commentary and information links. But whether or not those will be picked up by the general population, that's questionable, right? Because people have to subscribe to you before they will visually see the information you're providing. And this is part of the problem in our social media here, is that you have to be willing to subscribe to people to be connected and to know what kind of information, what the topic is, what's being talked about, what's being presented, and if you're not willing to dig a little bit deeper into people who have reached out to contact or to subscribe, then you're not going to make these connections.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reality is that all of that information ends up in, like, with Twitter, for example, ends up in their database, all in the same place, which, you know, for, or like maybe a better example is YouTube. I think all videos under 4 hours are automatically transcribed, and they and those transcriptions, like, YouTube has whatever policies they have, but all of those exist in a database that YouTube has access to, or somebody at YouTube has access to. So if there was a way to open up, you know, without having to subscribe, like you're saying specifically, but to open up and have this, like, if the transcripts of all YouTube videos were published, and then there was some kind of AI that helped, you know, index that based on the context, on the content of the transcripts, then we would immediately have this crazy, awesome, searchable database that we essentially have right now, but it's just not accessible to us. And so it kind of makes me think, what is YouTube working on in the background? You know, you know, Google working on in the background? How, you know, what are they planning on releasing? Because that kind of, like, you know, search the entire YouTube database to then find a 2-minute clip that's inside of a 4-hour video, that seems really useful. And, like, it would surprise me if they weren't trying to actively make that, you know, something that we have access to, something that we can.
Well, let me tell you something. I mean, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, you know. You've got your YouTube, just as an example, okay? They have the AIs, and they have the keywords, and you know what's popular. You know, you press on what's popular, right? So there's certain functions that are there, but also when you look at a video or watch a video, something catches your eye, and you're interested, and so you watch it, right? Now, you're going to see in your feed, you know, when you when you just want to look at your subscriptions, there are things. There's another option that you could take to see what interests, right? And then in that moment, at that moment, you're going to see content that's based on what you have watched, you know. So if you're doing research on something that you're not normally doing, that's not your main interest, but you just passing through it, let's, for example, you know, you're going to be hit with those kinds of videos in the future until you either erase that from your history. But I mean, I don't know if you can ever do that completely, but you're going to be bombarded with that topic, right? So what I'm saying is, it's a useful thing when you when you limit your search, okay, you narrow your search very specifically to one topic or one subject matter, the system itself, the YouTube system, will provide you with things that you're not necessarily subscribed to, but they're going to shoot those videos to you, right? You may be interested in it, you know, though it'll pop out and say new, may interest, recommendation. They'll have recommendations, but it's based on what you have already brought into play, you see? So you have to be careful not to go too far off in a tangent, or you're gonna be for a while flooded with content that you may not necessarily want. So, you know, that's why, you know, you could have a number of accounts, and you could use them for different projects, right? So I myself, I have 4 channels, and you know, it's like you don't want to catch a virus, you know. You have a channel that's very clean, and you don't want to get a stream of things that are ridiculous, you know.
I totally hear you there. And welcome back, Jamin.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to see everybody here. James, I think it might be a little past your bedtime. So good man on the overtime. Anyway, don't let me interrupt. Sounds like you guys are having a great conversation. I'll just clue in.
Yeah, Emery was just talking about, we were both talking about YouTube and what the experience is right now for being suggested content. Like if you just have one YouTube account, a little bit of exploration in you know, some branch of the tree of knowledge, just a little bit can like throw off all of your recommendations. So there's kind of like Emery was saying, he has 4 different channels and or accounts, and each one of those is like, I guess, more specialized so that he gets certain recommendations, and that like that kind of content that YouTube feeds him doesn't change for that particular account, which I think is a really interesting way of thinking about, you know, how do we get what is the information flow ideally. Obviously it's not all exact keyword search, because sometimes you don't even know what you're looking for. You just put in kind of, you know, close to, I mean, we've all tried to do a Google search of something we don't know much about, and we try it several times until a friend recommends a specific set of search terms that then gets you exactly what you want. So, you know, how do you make
I'll give you a good example, Nolan. You know, when I first came into the block party, there was the concept of Zoom. You know, I said, well, what's the Zoom, right? So I did some research on it, and you know, on YouTube, and for quite a while. I mean, I'm still getting videos about Zoom and how it works, and you know, lots of commentary about Zoom, and then that branches off to other things, you know, like it's very, very interesting, I find. But I think for the most part though, when you could search any topic, right? And you'll come across people, you'll come across accounts that people have set up that are really based in that on that topic, on that subject matter. And when you come across channels like that, the best thing to do is to subscribe. Don't have to have fear of subscribing to these channels, because when you do that, you then allow that content, that type of content, to come to you without making it difficult, for the search. You'll be there, you click on the bell and you're gonna get your notifications and whatnot. And they're limiting this all the time, right? Because they want to kind of steer the population and society to behave a certain way and to follow certain designated information, what they seem as appropriate, right? Or they want to mold us, right? They want to bring our attention to the virus, let's say. They're going to manipulate us if we allow it. So, we hold our guns and, subscribe to where we can filter out all the things that we already have identified as being, irrelevant. So I could go on, but I let you speak.
I'm just thinking out loud about how we can. I'm thinking, we want to make as much use of all of the tools we have now. We want to make as much use of those tools as possible and kind of push them to their limits of being used. And we only set them down once we have a tool that can completely replace and surpass that thing. And so I'm wondering how there's already, this social network of actual conversations exists already in some sense, but it's primarily like a one-to-one. It's usually like one person interviewing somebody else, or maybe it's I'm just guessing it's regularly a small number of people, but you could also even consider publications of town hall meetings and that kind of thing as also a part of this social network that exists already on YouTube. And so I wonder how we can
let me just ask you something, Nolan.
Sure.
Before you're on YouTube, you had the Hangouts, remember? That was a fantastic tool where people could really connect. I mean, now why would a large company? Why would YouTube eliminate that functionality? I mean, for what good reason? Who does that serve? Why? Okay, to allow for other companies to come in? I don't know. I mean, it made no sense to me. Yeah, right from the start. I mean, I joined YouTube in the very earliest days, and back in the beginning, we had so many options of setting up your channel, and it was personalized, and you could be very creative. You know, it was amazing. Those days were amazing, and slowly they've cut that, and you know, it's driving, in my opinion, it's driven people apart, you know, to a point now where, you know, people give up, they go to other platforms, and we're really spread out so far to try to stay connected is becoming, you know, on one hand, we say that, oh, we're so connected, but at the same time, we're buried in the sandbox here. We're so stuck in the mud. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it. This is great, what we're doing here. I love it.
Well, I have a thought. I know, Nolan, you were making a comparison to like YouTube videos as being part of this this social network of actual conversations. And I want to make a distinction between, I'm just going to call it living information and dead information, right? So anything that I post that's static, whether it's a video that I made with 5 other people, or whether it's a blog post or a picture, anything that I upload that's static like that, I'm just going to call that dead information. What we're creating right here, this is living information, because every moment it's changing, it's growing, it's being added to, it's living right now. This conversation is alive right now. And as this medium expands from just this one channel 24 hours a week to myriad channels 7 days a week, then you've got like a whole forest of living conversations. And then we monkeys can swing from living tree to living tree, right? Versus perusing deadwood here and deadwood there and deadwood here and deadwood there. We can jump onto a tree and make love to it, right? And, you know, add to it, impregnate it with our whatever in the moment.
I don't know, Jamin, I came across a lot of pretty decent dead wood. You know, I went through your videos, and there was some really beautiful things that I came across, you know, which, you know, calling it dead wood is a little bit of, I don't know. I wouldn't go to that extreme. I think it's very important to have these videos documented and well indexed, so that one can go and really benefit by all of that.
Oh, but believe me, I'm not knocking it. I also watch, let's call it petrified wood, not dead wood. Dead's a bit harsh. But you know, once we upload this video, right, the recording that we're making right now, it will be petrified wood. I'm just saying, conversations that are happening right now, this instant, whenever this instant is, right, in the moment, they're living and expanding and growing. And I kind of see this as this growing surface. I sometimes use the analogy of a head of broccoli that hasn't been harvested yet. And, you know, you've got a little nodule here, and it grows into 3 different nodules there, and it's just constantly growing. So right now we are right at the surface of the growth. You see what I mean? And as long as we're in a living conversation like this, we're right at the surface. Well, once that surface is this big surface with thousands of conversations, then people will say, hey, I've got I basically got 2 options. I can go and participate in a live conversation that's broadcasting and recording and being transcribed, and that's part of this living, growing surface. Or I can go deeper into the head of the into the past, into something that's not, that's just static, that's not growing right now in the moment. And for me, that's a fundamental difference. That's really what gives the internet the capacity to be intelligent. See, for something to be intelligent, it needs to be able to take in information right now and respond to it right now. And that's what we get with these living conversations. News can come in, boop. Yeah, yes, James.
Sorry, Jim, and I didn't want to cut you off mid-sentence. No, I'm just saying there. I agree with what you're saying, and I was kind of getting to the point there about like the YouTube viewers and everything else that they have to, obviously you have to go looking for a specific search now, because if you don't, you're just going to get what's recently added, and it's all that usual garbage, triplets, pop stuff, stars, celebrities, all that, trending stuff. And most people just go straight to that and go on to it. So they're not particularly out looking for this because they don't know about this, you know what I mean? So I was thinking like a cartoon kind of or something like that, like and throw it up an animated cartoon or something and throw that up, but get the collective intelligence in, like, don't call it the collective intelligence or anything, but the cartoon draw the people in on the trending thing, and then the collective intelligence is thrown in there so that they kind of like, oh, what's this kind of thing there? That's one thing anyway, but go on, sorry, I interrupted and I'm after forgetting the point anyway, go on.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But I mean, I just keep going back to the fundamental vision of collective superintelligence of, a million conversations happening in parallel, right? I mean, ideally, that's where everyone lives, right at the surface. And sure, we do searches to go deeper into the past. I mean, it could be 24 hours in the past. It doesn't have to be deep in the past. But there's just this fundamental difference between being right at the surface of the here and now, growing it, versus what's deeper in. And when everyone is living at the surface, fine, they may be participating in a conversation, but then searching for something over here and kind of keeping one ear into it. But then it's like that way everyone is sort of like on call, right? Everyone's mind is at the ready to be responsive to whatever comes up. Anyway, that's what we're building towards. And so it seemed that it might help to frame it in this fundamentally different way. This is an actual live conversation. This is something new. This is different. This isn't just a YouTube video. It's not just a whatever, right? It's something that's happening in real time. And that's another reason for a 24-hour block party. So we can have enough real time that it can actually be living for a while and people can experience it. Going on mute.
Definitely cutting edge, Jamin. Cutting edge. We're at the edge. It's a great thing that what we're doing.
Yeah, and also we're at the edge of reality and of transforming reality. Because see, if reality is what's commonly believed, then you type something into Google and it'll give you a bunch of reality, but it's all static. It's not alive, right? Reality should be a conversation, not a snapshot of something from hours, days, weeks, or years ago.
Yeah, but you remember Google when you did a search, it was a real search. You can go on and on and on and on and search and narrow the search. And they changed that around at one point. And I clued into it. I said, geez, they're making it absolutely impossible now to do a proper search of things. There was no need for it to be this difficult. It was easy before, and they made it more complicated and limited your ability to go in depth. You had to go over and above your normal effort to do what was easily done. You know what I mean? And they've been doing this nonstop. I mean, you never had to. If I subscribe to you, Jamin, on your channel, I mean, why in the world do I have to click a bloody bell? You know, never had to click a bell. I subscribe to you, and it's expected that I'm going to get the content that I've subscribed to, you know. But now if you don't hit the bell, that's an excuse for them not to deliver the content that, you know, is vital to me, because I'm very interested in it, and I value it, and I want to have it available to me, you know. And they're providing that service, but now they're taking, like, kind of like taking away the service bit by bit.
Yeah, it's. I'm not familiar with the details that you're talking about, but it sounds like they're trying to maximize for revenue. And so, if you subscribe to me, I don't even have any of my videos on any kind of monetization, whatever, right? You just get the content, but so if they're taking that away, it's probably because they want to put content in front of you that'll make money for them.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's another way of dividing up the massive amount of content that's always growing. So it's I mean, with the limited number of feature sets YouTube has, I don't know. We need better ways of interacting with all of the data that just exists out there. And I think the really exciting potential in collective intelligence is that it immediately, in my mind, I'm not like an expert in artificial intelligence or anything. Like I studied computer science, and I know some people in the field, but it makes sense to me that this collective intelligence would almost immediately breed just ridiculous advancements in artificial intelligence, especially when it comes to like analysis of language and like the context and what you mean, and like, oh, now they can analyze Jamin and Nolan and James and Les and Dylan and Emery and Stephanie in like all these different contexts as they're evolving over time, and then interweave all of that data with each other to cross-reference. Like that database has never existed before, ever. So as soon as that's created, that's just a whole nother segment of artificial intelligence we haven't. It's just waiting there for us. And once that's unlocked, then we can query this whole, mega, like the complete data set of all the data we have. That's going to get a lot easier to query, because now we can do it just with our voice. And, it's not just going to matter the key words you use. It's also like your inflection when you're saying those words, and what is the context? When did you search that? Oh, you searched it at like 9 p.m. when 2 hours ago you had this intense conversation with your best friend about X. It could start to become that advanced. So,
my problem with that, Nolan, is that what is the primary function? What are they going to do with that? To me, it's always geared and targeted to, to the direction of, well, how are we going to squeeze another dime out of our stock here? They're looking for ways of manipulation to get their product in front of you, or to mold you to behave a certain way, instead of using that the positive features of what we are establishing, all right, in directions of making the world better, or solving problems or improving our circumstances, you know?
Yeah, Emery, so I want to create a distinction between what has existed in the past and these big tech companies like Google that are manipulating this information and manipulating us. What Nolan is talking about is literally us, we, those of us who are on this call and those of us who are participating in this, co-creating something new and not just gifting it to some greedy corporation so that they can do with it whatever they want, things like what you're speculating on. No, it's what do we choose to do with it. And if we take it completely out of the monetary system and say, look, this is not something we're trying to monetize, because as soon as you start monetizing something, right, and turn it into a corporation, it then becomes a monster that just goes out of control, like these examples that we're talking about. So no, we're talking about creating something totally new, based on totally different principles of really actually helping people find what they really want to find so that they can contribute, etc. Does that help?
Yeah, I'm all for that. You know, I'm all for that.
Yeah, so let's focus on the positive. Let's not, I mean, we could literally die here bashing stupidity and greed that's out there. Let's co-create something.
Well, you know, as long as we have the you know, the people like yourself and people who are going to develop software to actually bring that to fruition, you know, that'll be very great.
So let's do it. And starting with the envisioning of it, right? Now, along the lines of what Nolan was talking about, the head of AI for Tesla, and as you can imagine, if Elon Musk hires someone to be the head of artificial intelligence for Tesla, they're going to be pretty sharp. Anyway, this guy put together a tool because he was manually combing through this massive database of like over 100,000 papers related to machine learning, including papers that hadn't gone through the peer review process and hadn't been published in a journal, but just papers that people were submitting. So a much higher volume of papers are available through this service this database that Cornell maintains on artificial intelligence. And he was having a hard time keeping track and finding the stuff. And he was kind of going insane, in his words, to find the stuff that he wanted to find. So he created a software that is open source, and we can build upon it. That he'll basically say, I like this document, this one, this is good. I like the stuff they're talking about here. Find me similar papers. And using, I think it might have simply been a word frequency analysis kind of thing. It would compare the frequency of words, of specific words, whether it's algorithm, matrix, inverse, whatever, just whatever technical words were being used in the document that he likes. It would do the same kind of frequency analysis on all the papers in the database. So the analysis is done once, and then you do a quick comparison between, let's just call it the resulting frequency word vector from one document and the other frequency word vector from another document. And if they're a close match, they say, hey, this is a close match. And it would find you all the documents that are close to the one that the guy liked. Anyway, this is available for anyone to use. It's called Archive Sanity. Nolan and I have taken a look at it. Anyway, imagine that we use that same technology, which is already developed in open source. We can take the code and do with it what we want. Imagine that we used that in the context of what Nolan is talking about, where it simply keeps track of Jamin's word frequency. What is Jamin talking about, right? And it can just follow all the words that come out of my mouth and then do that kind of frequency analysis comparison to conversations that I may know nothing about, but boy, would I be glad to learn about, right? Because they're talking about the stuff that I'm talking about. right? And my logic there is that if each of us could truly be a kid in a candy shop, information-wise and conversation-wise, and just go to whatever we're most attracted to, we're going to follow our passion. And we're going to follow our passion right to the conversation where we want to have impact and we want to see something done right here, and it really matters to us, whatever that topic may be. Okay? And in that way, we'll be able to kind of like resolve whatever it is that we want to resolve, right, about that. I'm just going to make a little analogy. Let's suppose that there's some, let's suppose I was single, which I'm happily not, okay? But let's suppose I was single, right? And there was some woman that I was just, oh my goodness, I'm so attracted, you know, and so I might ask her out to lunch. And then when I go out to lunch with her, okay, then I get to know who she really is, and maybe I'm not so interested, you know, for example. And then I can go on to something else. But until you've like resolved that, until you've followed your passion and resolved it and taken it to the nth degree, and maybe by taking it to the nth degree, you find out, okay, if not this, then what? Or maybe by taking it to the nth degree, you help that conversation resolve whatever it's seeking to resolve. Yes, success, fulfillment, right? I fulfilled what I wanted to fulfill, and then you can say, what's next? And we get a positive reinforcing feedback loop, because not only can I now find the information I'm looking for, I can jump into it and be a part of it. I can be a part of the matrix.
It's like a dating service.
Well, yeah, but you're dating conversations. You're impregnating conversations with your stuff.
No, but you see what I mean, though. I mean, when you join those services, you provide all the information about yourself, and then the AI, the system, integrates all of that and connects you.
Exactly. It's a Match.com connecting people with conversations. And obviously within those conversations, you're going to find your people.
There you go.
And as you said there, Jamin, earlier, and that's what the point I was trying to make, I remembered it, yeah, about looking at YouTube videos, and as you said, they're dead videos or dead wood, or as you described it, and Emery was saying I wouldn't go so far as saying that, because you have a lot of videos out there, and he wouldn't consider them dead wood. So I agree with Emery in that sense as well. So let's just say there's a lot of dead wood out there floating amongst the archives, like your own. So, but yeah, there is, and yeah, we have to kind of go specifically search for them, but you will start to get recommendations then, as Emery was saying, on your specific searches after a while. But yeah, the difference, and as you were saying, was that with this, it's not like looking at a video, because as you said, it's you can't interact with the video. You watch the video, you get the information, but you can't talk to it. You can't discuss the information with it, and it's not even like it's just a video file basically. This is exactly what what you're promoting is exactly what Emery was saying about getting frustrated with the searching for information, and making it harder to find the searching information, and that's just for video files. But here you have an interactive video conversation on the subject that you want, spontaneous conversation that can branch out into myriads of conversations, but you're engaged because it's what you want to talk about, and it's not just something that's reeling information off to you and you can't ask anyone about it afterwards. You're already in it. You're spontaneously involved in this. So yeah, this is the way to go. I mean, once anyone gets that, regardless of what level of comprehension they have in them, once they get that key that, oh, so I'm not just getting information here, I'm allowed to put input in the information here, I'm allowed to ask questions about the information here, I'm allowed to expand on the information here, and getting information on where to go further about the information here, and I'm learning new things as well that I didn't even realize were connected to the information I was looking for here. It's just a positive, spontaneous. So you're not going to get that on Deadwood floating around on YouTube.
Exactly. Les, you've had your hand up. Go ahead, Les.
Okay, sorry. I fashioned a microphone and I need to get a Y for it so I can use the speaker and it at the same time. But anyway, it's kind of interesting. I just got a piece of aluminum wire and bent it so it goes around my head, and then fastened a lab mic, I think it's called.
You look like the
On
Terminator.
the end of it. And I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I took a nap myself, and it's nice to have that. But I just woke up to hear Jamie talk about this software from Tesla's AI engineer, chief engineer, and the way AI is going, AI could listen to what we have to say, and then it could write its own. It could write, books about what that parallel our conversations, or it could write essays and things like that, or it could like go out and look for information that matches it and compile it into, you could make a request of it. I want information that follows these parameters, and then so in other words, you're going to guide it to produce a book that parallels your thinking process.
Well, Nolan actually found a software on the internet, or a project where I think they took like 40 gigabytes of text, which is.
I have it pulled up right now. I can read some of it for you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nolan. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the model is called GPT-2. And it was trained simply to predict the next word in 40 gigabytes of internet text. Due to our concerns about malicious applications of the technology, we are not releasing the trained model. This is from OpenAI, by the way, which is the institution that Elon Musk helped found. So let's see. GPT-2 displays a broad set of capabilities, including the ability to generate conditional synthetic text samples of unprecedented quality, where we prime the model with an input and have it generate a lengthy continuation. It also outperforms other language models trained on specific domains like Wikipedia, news, or books, and it outperforms them without needing to use domain-specific training data sets. So when it comes to being very specific in one context, it's able to do that actually better than something that's been trained in a specific context, which is really awesome. And so here's a sample of, I'll read you what they fed after they trained this algorithm. They prompted it with what I'm reading you now. In a shocking finding, scientists discovered a herd of unicorns living in a remote, previously unexplored valley in the Andes Mountains. Even more surprising to the researchers was the fact that the unicorns spoke perfect English. So that's what they gave the algorithm. And then it spat this back out. The scientists named the population.
Just pause for clarity. So what they're spitting out is their best prediction of, if that was just like a sample, what would the rest of it be, right? So they're extrapolating out. This is totally new created text based on pattern matching off of 40 gigabytes of text from the internet. Back to you, Nolan.
Yeah, that's a lot of text. Oh, Les, did you want to jump in? Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, and that small segment I read you is just what the humans inputted, and then the AI outputted this. So the scientist named the population after their distinctive horn, Ovid's unicorn. These 4-horned silver-white unicorns were previously unknown to science. Now, after almost 2 centuries, the mystery of what sparked this odd phenomena is finally solved. Dr. Jorge Perez, an evolutionary biologist from the University of La Paz, and several companions were exploring the Andes Mountains when they found a small valley with no other animals or humans. Perez noticed that the valley had what appeared to be a natural fountain surrounded by 2 peaks of rock and silver snow. Perez and the others then ventured further into the valley. By the time we reached the top of one peak, the water looked blue with some crystals on top, said Perez. Perez and his friends were astonished to see the unicorn herd. These creatures could be seen from the air without having to move too much to see them. They were so close they could touch their horns. While examining these bizarre creatures, the scientists discovered that the creatures also spoke some fairly regular English. Perez stated, "We can see, for example, that they have a common language, something like a dialect or dialectic." Dr. Perez believes that the unicorns may have originated in Argentina, where the animals were believed to be descendants of a lost race of people who lived there before the arrival of humans in those parts of South America. And there's like 2 more paragraphs, but like that's just what it generated off of this tiny bit of context.
And what's super cool there is, look, it's not generating it out of thin air. It's generating it from the 40 gigabytes of text that it trained on, right? So then imagine that we start talking and we talk for a few minutes, and then we take a coffee break for 5 minutes, and then we come back. And when we come back, this same software will have extrapolated based on our conversation. And it'll say, oh yeah, and then Les said this. Oh, and then James interjected that, and then Jamin said this, and da 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 da. Now, again, because it's training, it can be training off of an ocean of data. So it could be that there are other conversations that happened 2 hours ago that it's now taking content from and extrapolating forward with this. And then likewise, we can say, wow, I really like that. Where did you get that? And then it can maybe find out where it got it, and we can plug in there. I mean, so the possibilities. That's what I'm saying. Look, if we don't do this, humans, fellow humans, right, then, you know, screw us, because the pieces of the Lego set are right in front of us. We just need to get off our arses, as we might say in Ireland, and just roll up our sleeves and get to work, right? I mean, I'm talking to all of humanity. At this point, I'm kind of speaking for humanity. Humanity, hello, we're almost dead. We might as well try putting some Lego blocks together and give this a go. And by the way, I'm not talking to any of you all who are here. You all who are here are the chosen ones. I'm talking to the ones who aren't here. Join us. Go ahead, Les.
Okay, sorry. the possibilities are like incredible. And also though, if you ask that, if you had that software available to you, you could potentially you could potentially guide it to go in certain directions. And you could like even, I mean, they're getting software so good now at recognizing what voices sound like. You can like type in a sentence, and then, I mean, in the future, you'll be able to type in a sentence and then just have the software produce a audio voice that you couldn't distinguish. In other words, they could fake like a spouse out, that they're, like you could generate a voice that would replicate somebody's spouse, and then trick them by saying something like, "Oh, I need a loan. I'm out stranded, and I need you to send me $5,000 right away," and it would, you wouldn't be able to tell whether it was your spouse or not. So, I mean, this deception is like, the possibilities for what it could do to fake out humanity. You could potentially in the future, you'll have software that could like even replicate, real life in videos, and make it look like, something's happening that's not. All kinds of possibilities.
Yeah,
yeah, I get what you're saying there, Les, but I think the beauty of what Jamin is proposing here is the fact that yeah, he's proposing that you can get the information that you want, and you can get the answers that you're looking for, and you can solve problems that you're trying to solve, and you can get ideas on things that you weren't even thinking about. But the beauty of this is that there is no hidden AI, in the sense, like, it's all open. The AI that's behind this is being very much laid out in front of us for what it is and how it works. So that's not only just the openness about the whole lot of this forum, but the difference in what you're saying there, and I get what you're coming from, but the difference with this is that you get interpersonal information. It's live information, as Jim said. It's not dead information. This is live information. You don't have to listen to a recorded voice giving you the information. You're actually talking to people like we're talking to each other here, and you're getting the information straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And in that way, you can also be sure that nobody is giving you the wrong information, because there's more than one other person in that conversation, which is all being recorded and it's all above board. And so there's no deception here. And that's the beauty of this forum. Unlike trying to go on YouTube and find out some information and get bombarded with about 200 videos of misinformation and one with the accurate information. And then good luck trying to figure which one is which. Like, that's not being offered here anyway. That's the beauty of this forum. So, which I know you know yourself. So people don't have to worry about AI and this at all. All they have to worry about, or all they have to think about when the AI, when it comes to this forum, as far as I'm concerned, is that it's there working in the background to get all the information we want, to solve the problems we want, and to make sure that everyone is being open, and it's all above board and recorded. So that's the beauty of this one.
Beautiful. And I have more to say about that. Les, did you have your hand up?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I find, you know, artificial intelligence intriguing, and it, you know, it does have like, it's like a two-edged sword. It can greatly enhance your ability, but it can enhance the ability of your enemy as well. So, I mean, if you just go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah. Here's the thing. There's always risks with anything, but what we're talking about here is creating this beautiful, benevolent from its very foundations mashup of humanity with AI. And part of the mashup includes humanity really getting into the AI, not just letting it do what it wants and here's some AI that any evil person can download and use. No, the AI that we'll be using will be highly curated, and we'll use collective superintelligence to analyze the AI and audit it and ensure that safety protocols are not being violated. So whatever bots, whatever AI we use within this system will be, you know, moderated by the collective superintelligence itself, which, yes, includes AI and it also includes humans. But here's the thing. Let me tell you why I don't want to dilute these conversations with too much of, well, we'll caution. It's kind of like we're driving in a Ford Mustang, and we know that a nuclear bomb is about to go off 200 yards behind us in, you know, 30 seconds. And so if we floor it, we'll just get beyond the kill radius, right? Now, is it dangerous to drive fast? Of course it is. But if we don't floor it and get dangerous with it, we're sure to die. I mean, between Corona, planetary overheating, the loss of global dimming, the burning of the forest, the melting of the ice. I mean, I could make a rap song out of this, right? Was it Kevin there playing guitar? Maybe Kevin could play the guitar for the rap song, right? You know, and it'd be beautiful. But my brothers and sisters, we ain't got no time to rap, right? We're almost dead. It's time to freaking floor it. Let's move forward with this and not drag ourselves back with, well, but what about this danger? What about that? I'm not saying let's ignore the dangers, but I'm saying we got to move forward, or we're almost dead. It's time to floor it. That's just my 2 cents. I'm not trying to shut anybody up. In fact, if people disagree with me, disagree. But we're not even going to get beyond the kill radius at this rate. And back to the bots. We have a website that we have yet to build, but we've got the concept for it. It's called, so raise your hand if you've heard of GitHub, like github.com. Okay, everybody's heard of GitHub. All right, great, thanks, James. Well, we're gonna launch the website at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, called BotHub, right? A place to co-create totally open source and transparent bots. And for the bots that we use in this system, collective superintelligence, we can have a highly evolved and evolving set of standards and protocols for safety, right? And so that the data, so that the uses of it, et cetera, within the system have to be within those protocols. And anything that strays beyond that, we will have smart AI coded from a whole different code base monitoring. So we'll have AI monitoring AI, all right? Anyway, the collective superintelligence is going to come up with the ways to make it safe, right, for our purposes. Because here's the thing. Here's just a simple thought experiment. What would you be more afraid of, okay? Or what would be more powerful? AI in a cardboard box, it's just AI. There's no human inside the box, it's just AI. Or the same AI and millions of people operating in a collective super intelligence framework, using that same AI, right? Which is going to be more powerful, right? Yes, Les.
Well, of course, day one, the AI plus humans, but day two, the AI. In other words, super intelligence is going to get so extremely capable that the amount that it'll supersede all human intelligence greatly if technology continues past a certain point. Maybe, I don't know, Ray Kurzweil has these projections where the singularity will happen. I'm not sure, what is it, 2045 or something? I'm not sure. Anyway, I looked at Kurzweil's projections, and by the end of this century, like 10 years worth of technological progress would happen in 6 minutes or something like that. Just crazy.
Yeah, but so let me just create another thought experiment. Let's say that we had a multi-lane collective superintelligence right now, right? I would be totally supportive of there being as many lanes, as many conversations as people want, talking about the dangers of AI and this and that. But you wouldn't find me there. You'd find me in a conversation talking about how do we use these tools to save life on Earth. And yes, we coordinate with these groups that are working on safety protocols and all that. It's really academic because we're just about to die. I'd rather not die talking about the dangers of AI. I'd rather die fighting to save life on Earth using the tools that we have. Anyway, I'm just really passionate about this, so you'll hear my passion again and again. Go ahead, Nolan.
Well, the way I like to think about AI that dispels for me, well, I guess programming and working with people, building artificial intelligence kind of demystifies the thing. And I think about it more like a car, in the sense that, well, I was about to say it needs a driver, but I guess they're driving themselves. But even the self-driving cars, they're not going from point A to point B because they want to, right? Like there's all this human intention behind what the artificial intelligence wants and what it's seeking out. So basically, if artificial intelligence like takes over and leaves humanity behind, from my point of view, that would be because a human determined that it would direct the AI to do that. So I actually think yeah, I don't know. I think that more as a tool that we're co-evolving with it, and it's like a platform for us. Like now that we have cars, that enables us to live in suburbs, like a 20 or 30-minute drive outside of the industrial area of a city or something like that. And so AI keeps allowing us to do that, but I don't know. That's just something useful I wanted to throw out there.
All right. So I propose that we get back to the task of, co-creating how we're going to use all this to move forward and solve our problems. And leave concerns about AI in the parking lot, mainly because just what the hell is going to come out of that conversation anyway? All it's doing is slowing us down, right? Anyway.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If people are really held back by fears of artificial intelligence and the success of collective superintelligence relies on artificial intelligence, then those are conversations we need to be prepared for. And people, I don't know. I think we definitely have to empathize with all these different perspectives that we're bringing in, because we ultimately need people from all different sectors, and they're not all going to get it in the same way at the same time. And yeah.
No, I get it. So I see I see you guys. You got your hands up. Here's the thing. What we're doing right now is envisioning, right? We're envisioning, and then we're diluting that envisioning with, well, it could be dangerous. And then we take a couple steps forward more about envisioning, and then a couple steps backward, because so it's like we're not going to fight our way out of this wet paper bag by, constantly going backwards. Let's push the vision forward. There's nothing wrong with envisioning, right? If anything, that gives good fodder. That'll give great fodder for people to say, okay, now we can see what do we do with that. But let's be the ones who are envisioning. Let's leave it to other folks or other conversations to then, put the drags on that and say, well, what about the dangers? What about this? These are perfectly valid conversations to have. I'm just voting to not have them here right now because, number one, we're not exactly competent to have those conversations. Bring in some AI experts who think about this 24/7. Let's get them into the collective intelligence and get them working on it. We're just speculating based on stuff that we read in The Singularity is Near that was written in 2005. I mean, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Anyway, James has something to say, and then Les. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Yeah, I agree there 100% what you're saying. We need to move forward. Time is of the essence, you know what I mean? And and again, I agree what you were saying there about we're going backwards and forwards. And that's what I was saying earlier on in the conversation when I was saying that I know because earlier on tonight that the numbers were down a little, and I was saying that a lot of people in the world are preoccupied with the coronavirus, and that it might seem like that it's taken a step back because the numbers were down. But as I said, that's just because people were preoccupied. So that's just a factor that will change. As I said, like the numbers will come back up again. They had again later on after the night went on. Point is that we need to focus on, let's not even consider or throw the word artificial intelligence behind this. We should refer to it as an archiving system more so than artificial intelligence behind it. The word AI definitely seems to throw doubt into people's minds and everything else. And I think it is definitely misguiding the conversation and distracting the conversation, because it's opening up fears, and we don't need fears creeping in there at all. Like, we don't need fears. We have enough of fears because of what's really going down the line. We don't have to be worrying about the what ifs with AI and everything. It's not AI. Let's just get that into our heads. It's not artificial intelligence. It's just a memory bank, an archiving system that can cross-reference at very fast, rapid paces all the conversations that are going on here live and recorded, so you can have your archiving as well to look back over the recorded video. But the point is, it's not an AI in the sense that it's going to go off and go doing its own fucking ulterior motive things at all. It's not. It's only responding to what the conversations are here. So it's not AI. It's an archiving system that can cross-reference everything we're doing. That's about the best way we should get on with that. We leave it at that. And as you said, let's move on. Let's start throwing ideas out there. I'm sure there's a lot of people here. I know I was kind of premature there a couple of weeks ago. I think I was, and I said, well, I throw out an idea there based on the floating mirrors, the SRM and the permaculture thing, and I threw up a drawing. But it was just me. That was my way of pushing things forward, in a sense. Like, I'd thrown out an idea so that somebody might expand on it. Let's do that again. Let's start doing that. Anybody got ideas about how we, like, as Sandra was saying last week, as I said earlier in the conversation, let's give them something more, not just the SRM. That's the priority, we know that, but let's give them something more. So then we're on about the regreening of the desert zones or the barren land zones. That's something more, because that's something they can produce electricity and energy out of, as well as regreen these areas, and as well as grow crops, and as well as feed people, and blah, 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 blah. But there's more out there. There's more out there about ideas about, well, let's do this, let's do that. How about this? How about that? Let's start having an idea pool, and we can start, because until people start suggesting, we're not going to expand on the ideas. As Jim has said, if we don't have the conversation and don't talk, don't start, if we don't get over our inhibitions. No, I've got over my inhibitions. I'm actually getting pissed off, to be quite honest, because as Jim is, I can understandably think that he is as well, because we can't afford to be taking one step forward and 2 steps back. We have to get, let's start fucking marching together. Like, let's get on the same fucking bandwagon, and let's throw ideas out there, start talking, get on board, get off YouTube, get on the video, get in the conversation, start fucking copping yourselves on. Get up and fucking do something for yourselves, because nobody else is going to do it unless we fucking do it. It's as simple as that. Sorry about the language, but that's about the size of it. Irish, if you're fucking Irish, get up off your fucking arses and start getting involved. That's about the size of it.
Yeah, totally. Couldn't agree more. All right, Les, you got your hand up.
Well, I can understand that you don't want to pull your foot off the accelerator, but if you're heading in the wrong direction in your car, you're better off pulling your foot off the accelerator. So it's good to know where the car is going, and who's deciding where the car is going? Should it be like just one person, or should it be a group of people? And how should the decision be made? Should it be made by consensus, or should it be made by majority rule? A lot of different decisions. What technology is doing is it's concentrating power in the hands of a very small number of people. And so if technology increases, will it concentrate power even more? I'd say that's a strong possibility. That's enough.
Okay, so here I propose, building off of what you're saying, Les, who's going to decide which direction the car is going? Why don't we use just like consensus right here, right now, and try it out, right? Later we can layer on more complicated forms of democracy like sociocracy or holacracy or whatever. But right now, I propose a vote. If you'd like to participate in a conversation about moving forward and brainstorming how we can creatively move forward and co-create collective superintelligence, please raise your hand. And then versus, do you want to talk about dangers of AI, or what about this, or what if this technology ends up concentrating power in the hands of other people, or other kind of, risk factors, which I don't want to have that conversation right now. I don't think we haven't even moved far enough down the field for that to even be relevant at this point. But if you want to have a conversation about risk factors and dangers of technology and AI, please raise your hand. Okay, so Les, respectfully, you have been outvoted by the ones who want to move forward. We've used your idea about using consensus, and Glenn's voting for 50-50, so He's got half a hand up in each of those votes. Nolan has something to say. Go ahead, Nolan.
Yeah, I think the important thing is recognizing that everybody is at a different place. Their conception of what collective intelligence is, and ideally everyone is understanding as much of the whole of it as possible, because I think that's what really motivates the thing moving forward. And so with all I want to say about artificial intelligence at this point is, for me, the success of this and the motivation, and in my mind, we cannot facilitate a very significant collective intelligence without artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is a broad term that can mean lots of things, but essentially it's just good programming. And my frustration comes from if people in our group have significant concerns about artificial intelligence or whatever, that can prevent them from going forward and envisioning the rest of it. And that's okay. That's just something else for us to deal with. That's another roadblock. And part of us moving forward is addressing that and helping get everyone on the same page. Now am I saying we have to have a super long conversation about artificial intelligence right now? No, but we could, or we can move on to something. I'm just
well,
you're making it sound like I don't, for example, I'm not wanting to move forward by even talking about what I'm talking about right now. But to me, this is moving forward for me, because I'm being honest and putting myself in the space. So I just want to totally respect Les and anyone else in any of these contexts where that's all I have to say. That's what I need to get out.
Sure. James, I see you got your hand up. I just want to comment that here, let me present a hypothetical scenario. Suppose we're, whatever number of us having this conversation, and half of us want to talk about a creative conversation about what we could do with AI and what we could do with collective superintelligence and all that, and the other half wants to talk about the dangers of AI, right? At that point, one possibility would be that we bifurcate the conversation, and those who want to talk about dangers of AI can go off and do that, and they can do it for hours, totally uninhibited. See, right now we're trying to mix oil and water, and it's just not working. And so that's why I put it to the vote. So those of you who want to talk about dangers of AI, please do so, but just not here, now that we've put it to the vote. That's my proposal, right? I mean, literally, there's nothing stopping you from going and creating a Zoom video conference and inviting whoever you want, including people from here, to go join you, and then go have that conversation, right? This is just a proposal. And this, by the way, this would be one of the features of collective superintelligence, is that you let people talk about what they want to talk about. You don't impede them, right? And that's a beautiful thing. We do need people looking at the dangers of AI and all that. Right now, at this moment in my life, March 13th, 2020, when people are dropping like flies from Corona, and global timming is being taken away, and we're about to die, frankly, all of us. I'm just not interested in talking about the dangers of AI right now at this moment. See, this is a really great conversation that we're having. It's a great example, right, of a sort of a broken conversation. But by having the broken conversation and analyzing its brokenness, we're able to determine what we really want to do, both in terms of designing the system as well as what we want to talk about right here, right now. James, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Yeah, no, I agree with, like, first of all, anyway, I want to state anyway, like, Les, Les was like, saying that you shouldn't be talking about or saying what you were saying or anything about the AI and everything. What you were saying is all very valid and everything else like that. And also with yourself as well, Nolan. All I was saying was, like, I was reiterating in a sense what Jamin is stressing, because I'm on the same wavelength in that sense, because I think we have started to take one step forward and two steps back there now in the last couple of weeks, because we did get sidetracked a couple of weeks ago with another situation. And no, we break it up into different conversations over hours, different hours and everything else. But I just think, as Jamin is saying, the priority is the focus, and the priority is to start getting ideas and generating ideas and generating collective ideas and everything else. I think we shouldn't focus on the what ifs at the moment, in the sense, like, I'm not saying that they're not valid points, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't. As Jamin was saying, those are conversations we can even arrange here on chat, here, private chat with each other. Say, look, I'll give you a shout there on WhatsApp there after about that, when we're finished here about this conversation. You know what I mean? That's grand. And as Jamin said, these are all going to branch off into different rooms and different conversations anyway when the numbers increase. That's not going to happen until the numbers increase, because there's no point having separate rooms where there's only one or two people, or maybe only one in there. We have to increase the numbers, but we have to focus on the priority as the numbers are increasing. Because if we don't focus on the priority and focus on the what ifs as the number are increasing, then the number of conversations will start increasing as well, which will even push us back more steps, because we're not focusing on the priority. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not disrespecting anybody and what they have to say or anything else, but I'm just saying, for a while now, we've focused on the holistic side of things there the other night, and we focused on the different segments of things last week as well, and that was good and everything else. But we're still not pushing forward, and I think there may be a little bit because of apprehension, in the sense that nobody wants to be disrespectful to anyone in these conversations or anything else. So I think the apprehension then kind of steps in, where maybe they don't want to change the subject or something else like that. That's all well and good. I mean, but anyone could suggest something. Everything's been recorded. Everything's been noted. We all know what we're. We can always, if we have any issues about not catching up, as you said a while ago, Nolan, everybody's on different levels of this conversation at the moment, especially new people tuning in and everything. Maybe a suggestion would be, as I said earlier on there to Michael earlier on, I was saying he was looking for more kind of facts and figures on what size of this mirror array is going to be in the oceans, and is there any particular figures in there. And I was saying to look at Tau's presentation there, or even this conversation with Sandra last week. If we put up a few links, I think you should put up an extra few links on the Radish page or whatever, just specific links that are, like, do our own bit of AI here. In other words, like, just get those specific links that there was a number of different conversations going on about what the collective conversation is doing, and make a small compilation video of that and put that up on the Radish as well, and refer people to that when they're not only when they're getting an idea what the collective or to get all the idea of the collective conversation, those little clips together, then, as well as Dr. Yetau's presentation as well. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do or anything. I'm just saying, but that'd be another suggestion. So, like, so that anyone that is kind of a bit behind in what's happening here or what's all about, you could just say, look, go on Radish.org there. There's Dr. Airstow's presentation, but there's also a little compilation of talking about what the intricacies of the algorithms and archiving systems and cross-references systems are behind the situation here and the conversations here. And we refer to that as AI because that's what it's referred to in the, you know, in the computer world as far as I'm concerned. But I do understand people's apprehension when it comes to AI because it's, you know, even Elon Musk himself is apprehensive about the word AI and what that can mean in the future. But that's not what's been proposed there. It's, as you said yourself, it's just algorithms and cross-referencing and I'm going on too much, sorry. But let's get back to the priorities as well. You know
Totally, totally. Okay, so we're moving back to the priorities. I am hereby, for the moment, establishing prohibition on talking about the dangers of AI. So I'm just doing it because otherwise we're just killing this conversation, and I'm not willing to stand here and watch this conversation be killed. I'm just not. Okay, if you want to start a conversation on the dangers of AI and all, go for it, but just not here. At least not here, right? Not here, not now. And it's nothing personal, right? The thing is, there's nothing wrong with a bunch of people getting together and talking about the dangers of AI, but whoever is leading a given meeting needs to be clear and, you know, about what the parameters of that meeting are. So I'm just being clear about that, having taken a vote. All right, onward. Okay. Back to how we can use, after that 25-minute detour or whatever the hell it was, and I just invite people to reflect what was gained by that. Let's envision these scenarios, because I think we're hot on the trail of envisioning, you know, for example, using the text stream of what comes out of someone's mouth. Using that to find conversations that are talking about similar stuff. That's super exciting, right? And we, I mean, what I was talking about earlier with that dating analogy is it gives people the opportunity to find what they really want to be talking about, whether it's dangers of AI or using AI for collective superintelligence or whatever, right? We can, you know, people finding their bliss, finding their passion. We were talking about that a few hours ago, right? That if everyone focuses on their passion and their bliss, right, that's a good thing, right? There's something that you want to resolve. Like for me, collective superintelligence, I'm not going to stop thinking about it until I find the tribe, and I think we're finding them, of people who also see the potential in this as being that tool that will help us move forward, right? And create solutions to all of our problems. You know, just to be, you know, once we've got this multi-lane superhighway, right? To be able to find your lane, to find your tribe. Just think of the beauty of this tribe that we've got here right now. What an amazing tribe. Just take a moment and think about it, right? Here we are, a bunch of human beings committed to saving life on Earth, using whatever tools we can use to do that, obviously being thoughtful, right? And cautious, and looking at it holistically, hence global holistic modeling and all that. But I mean, just think of the power of this. And think of the power of this growing. Yes, we may be small in number now. You know, there were more of us last week, but again, coronavirus, stuff happens. And I just want to be clear that I, for one, am committed to this community and committed to these meetings and moving this forward, no matter what, no matter how bad it gets. I could be doing a lot of other things today, right? Better preparing for the coronavirus and this and that. So, you know, I could be watching the news. I could be listening to President Trump's address. I could be calling up relatives and freaking out or whatever, right? Or just doing what I feel like. So I'm really, really grateful for the people who are here today, right now, sticking it out with this conversation and this community. I want to notice that Les left the meeting, and I definitely honor that. I certainly hope I didn't scare him away, but I was using what I thought was a real valid example of letting people talk about what they want to talk about, right? That's why we need multiple lanes. See, right now we just have one room, right? And, you know, if young Jamin wants to come into the room and start beating on a drum kit, he's gonna affect everyone else in the room, right? So anyway, I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that.
I hope Les hasn't left now because of anything I said. Like, I hope I'd hate to think that I've upset or just, you know, disrespected anyone. I know I kind of left a few expletives out there a while ago and everything else, but you know, I can understand everyone's point of view and where everyone's coming from, and I can understand everyone's humor as well tonight. Like, you know what I mean? As I said, it's definitely a global thing anyway. Like, there's bit of that electricity in the air, I suppose, because of what's going on. And I think it's dragging a lot of negativity in with it as well, those vibes. Like, so, but that's all right. Like, we can ride that out. We should be able to, as James said, use this forum, like, to be able to discuss those negativities and everything else. And that's what we have been doing over the course of the night there now as well. But you know, there's no denying, like, the situation we're in, and there's no getting away from it. So I agree with what Jamin is saying. I'm 100% behind this forum anyway, because, like, the rest of the week can go by now for me, and it's like I'm on autopilot because I do things around the house here, and you know, try to get on with normal life things and what have you. But it's always in the back of my mind, like, that it all seems to be pointless now, in the sense, like, that unless we can do something about it. And all I keep thinking about all the time is, how can I get more people to get on board with this? Like, because we just need more numbers, like, because that's all it's going to take. Just once people start getting on board, you know. So again, I'm going to reiterate: don't lose heart in the fact that numbers slacked off this week, because it's definitely related to the coronavirus. There's no doubt about that. Like, it has nothing to do, or no, you know, nothing. There's nothing going wrong with the whole forum or anything else like that. Like, it has nothing to do with this forum. I have no doubt whatsoever. I'm saying that, like, but all the time now, repeating myself, but I have no doubt myself whatsoever that this is our only hope. And so.
Beautiful, beautiful. And just one quick comment. By the way, Emery has his hand up, but if there's like a quick comment like I'm about to make following on what James said, I'll do it, and I encourage others to do the same. And thanks for your patience, Emery. So I actually see it, you know, as Stephanie said hours ago, it typed into chat, it's kind of, it could be like a blessing in disguise. I think it'll be a blessing in disguise, because now people are grounded at home. What are you going to do? Turn on the television or turn on the internet? Right? And if you're going to turn on the internet, are you just going to consume other people's deadwood information, or are you going to be part of the solution? Right? So I really think we've got the hottest thing on earth here, the coolest thing on earth. Wait, how could it be the hottest and the coolest? I don't know. Don't nitpick. I saw you, Stephanie. No, just kidding. Okay, Emery, take it away.
Thanks, Jamie. just wanted to say that, you know, I really appreciate you. And I think that being part of this is, you know, it's an inspiration, you know, and we will be inspired, you know, and it's not at the snap of a finger of our fingers that the inspiration will hit us, you know, but you know, that's what we're striving for. I think we need to come together and strive to be inspired and progress to you know, to reach our goal of doing what we're setting out to do. And you know, we're trying to save life on this planet. I mean, it's our main priority, right? We're establishing our priorities, and we're finding, you know, ways to get there. And inspiration is part of it, and listening to people, giving people the time to express their thoughts, and you know, it's vital. It's vital to be able to move ahead, you know, to have that happen. And I'm really thankful to you, Jamin. You're really a wonderful leader, and it's a privilege. Thanks.
Thank you, Emery. Thank you so much. All I can say to that is I am my father's son, and I saw my dad in the last several decades of his life forget about trying to make money. It's not like he had a huge pile or anything, but he forgot about the material and just focused on what does the world need. He focused on the San Francisco Bay Area, making it a safer place, with more green space, with more parks, with less fire risks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when the mafia came in to try to build a casino, as they've done all over the United States and all over the world, and it's controlled by the mafia, when they tried to come in and create a casino in our hometown on the waterfront, my dad stopped it. He built a movement to stop it. And the mafia tried to kill him. They literally sent a hitman after him, did some damage, right? Knocked my dad out with a blackjack. He was unconscious, was going in for the kill. And my dad messed up the hitman, sent him back to the mafia, damaged goods, returned to sender. And anyway, I'm my father's son. I have to do this. There's no way back for me. Only forward. Jim, great to see you. Welcome back. We're having a pretty interesting day here.
Yeah, thanks. Good to see you. I was checking in, just watching from time to time throughout the day, and it's I just thought I'd stop by and check in, and I'm completely impressed and excited with your feeling of urgency to move forward, you know, because I think there is no option B, man. This moving forward is the only option. And all I could maybe, and since Les, I guess the guy Les left, is to, you guys are very comfortable with the language of the computer and all that stuff. And I don't know that, I think AI to some people is a dirty word because they don't understand it. You know, there's lots of things in my world that I'm comfortable with that a lot of people, you know, would cringe at, you know what I mean? So I think, you know, like sorting and collating is something that people can understand, you know, when it comes to like a printer, you know, like if you can sort and collate conversations, you know, I think, I don't know if you're suggesting that AI when it comes to collective intelligence is something other than that. But that might be more palatable to some people. I'm just throwing that out there as a possible suggestion. You guys are very knowledgeable about this tool. You know, this is what you're creating here is a tool, you know. It's like a fishing rod, you know what I mean? We're fishing for a solution, you know, and I don't even know if we know where we're throwing the line yet, you know what I mean? We got a worm on the hook, but we're not sure if we're throwing the line into the swimming pool or if we're throwing the line into like a bass pond, you know what I mean, where we might have a chance of catching something. So, so I agree with the urgency, and who knows if all these current events are all connected. You know, there is the, you know, there's serious stuff going on in the world, and I don't think we can bury our head in the sand anymore and not try to connect the dots. And I give you credit for your passion and desire in connecting the dots.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, and you know, I think, see, your point is really well taken about, you know, talking explicitly about what we want to do with the data, you know, sorting, collating, filtering, whatever, versus using AI, which can be kind of a loaded word. But in my mind, the reality is we're going to use AI, right? And if people are afraid of that word or want to talk about the dangers, let there be 1 lane, 1,000 lanes for people to talk about anything they want, right? One of the things that I think the AI is going to be able to help us with, listen to this. You know how, like, when you're having a conversation sometime and, you know, there might be like 4 or 5 people there really getting into it and it's really getting creative. And then somebody walks into it and then just rips off a big fart. And it's just like, and it's just like a big downer, right? And some people, you know, actually thrive on derailing people who are pursuing their passion. Some people, right? And that's a very real thing. Some people actually derive energy from, you know, screwing up other people. I actually have a couple relatives who I would put into that category, and I've had a lot of frustration with those folks over the years. Love them dearly, will always love them. And I think one of the cool uses of AI is it's going to be able to detect when someone is just being derailing, or, you know, and drawing energy from, you know, screwing with people who are hot on the trail of co-creating something amazing, right? Why? How would it detect it? Well, there's tonality, there's facial, like, look, you can tell right now I'm being real and passionate, right? And I'm just like, let's move this wagon train forward, right? And I think you can also kind of tell when someone's doing the opposite of that, right? If we can tell, the AI will be able to tell because we'll train it to tell.
So how do we get rid of people like you? I mean, that's the danger of it, you know what I mean? And sometimes there are the people who are willing to step out and talk truth to power, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's not always welcomed, but they are a valid part of every conversation. And I understand your point on the other hand too, that it can drag things down and it can throw a wrench into the works, you know? So if there is a happy medium to be had, I don't know what that is.
Well, I've got a big idea about what that is. And I talked about it a few minutes ago. I don't know if you were listening in at that part, but I said, look, if there's, you know, 20 people in the room and a conversation is happening and 10 want to go talk about A and 10 want to go talk about B, there is nothing wrong with that room bifurcating into 2 at that point. And a couple of years ago, one of my earlier colleagues, in the earliest colleague of mine in Radish, Michael Call, he and I sat down and spent a few days working on kind of this model of basically a holistic model to determine exactly where people net out relative to a whole series of questions, right? And I'll use the analogy of a big block of cheese. I'm going to say vegan cheese to respect the vegans. But imagine there's this giant block of cheese. It's literally like 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. Maybe in Wisconsin, they make such big blocks of cheese. But anyway, and then we have a bifurcating question, right? Is the planet heating exponentially out of control? Yes or no, right? And then everyone who believes it's no is on the left-hand side of the block, and everyone who believes it's yes is on the right-hand side of the block. You chop the block in two, and you separate those people into those two groups. Not to be separated permanently, mind you, but just follow with me. And then, of the ones who say, oh my goodness, yes, the planet is overheating exponentially, you can then further divide it into, this should be solved with drawdown only, or it should be solved with drawdown plus other solutions, right? Because there's a whole drawdown only crowd that I don't particularly want to spend my time talking to. Again, cut the right block of cheese into those, you know. So you keep chopping the blocks into smaller and smaller chunks of cheese until you end up with people in a very tiny block who basically answered the previous 20 questions the same exact way. Now, what's the benefit of that? Well, if we've answered those questions the same way, including questions about what direction we want to head in, now we can all lock arms and march forward in that direction unimpeded, right? But if we've got people in the room who don't even believe that climate change is a problem, and they're like, well, I think that's a Chinese hoax, you know, I mean, we're not going to get anywhere, right? If we had 3 Trump supporters in this meeting, like, oh, blah, blah, you know, and they raise their hand and then they go on, I mean, screw that. Now, if a bunch of Trump supporters want to get together and have a meeting to prove that climate change is a hoax, let them. And if they come up with something brilliant, you know, shit, and they can convince me, I'll quit what I'm doing and go become a NASCAR driver or something, right? So let everyone pursue what they want to pursue, period. So back to the chunks of cheese. Imagine we create this whole chunkifying mechanism, which really would be manifested by like a wizard that would ask you questions, you'd interact with and all that, and it would say, okay, you live in this chunk of cheese over here, and this other person lives in this chunk of cheese way over here. Now, here's some interesting scenarios. Let's say you take people from one little chunk of cheese, which is just adjacent to another little chunk of cheese. In other words, they agreed on everything except for one specific point. Now, if people from little chunk A and little chunk B have an opportunity to come together and have a debate, let's say they meet at the border between those 2 little chunks of cheese. They meet right at the border with a specific intent of having a debate about that one thing that they disagree on. A debate, a discussion, whatever you want. But the topic is clear. The focus is clear. It's right at that interface. Potentially, some people might cross the line, or they might find a way of synthesis and have, you know, annealing or healing at the border, right? They might even just merge into one chunk of cheese if they resolve whatever needs to be resolved. Maybe the people in chunk A just need to see the data that people in chunk B have seen, or vice versa, right? So we can actually get systematic about this. We don't have to just let this be a constant drag on our conversations. We can get very systematic and programmatic about it, right? I would love to, I mean, like, I love this group. It's kind of like, I hope I'm being kind of like a magnet for people who also want to get together and drive this collective superintelligence and drive it forward so that we can co-create solutions and solve whatever problems it generates along the way, right? including having whole fulls of people like Les who can analyze to the nth degree what might be wrong. And then they come to us and say, hey, look, we've done a whole bunch of work. Please check it out. And we check it out. That's great. But keep it clean, all right? Don't try to mix oil, water, asparagus, and vanilla ice cream. Ugh. You know, it just doesn't work. Anyway, and then I think also we could layer on top of that all this kind of Myers-Briggs stuff and Carl Jung and personality types and this, that, the other, and your gene keys. Where were you born? When were you born? Near what mouth of what river were you born? Whatever, right? So that, I mean, look, Nolan and I, we're just like this beautiful dynamic duo. I mean, he moved up here to live on the same island as me so that we could work together, right? Nolan, do we agree on everything? No. But there's this beautiful, you know, it works. This meeting here works, right? And AI could figure out why it works. Well, it's because Embry and I are both Tauruses and da-da-da-da and gene keys and this and that. I mean, we can use AI to do the pattern matching to tease out why certain teams work well together. And that if you bring in a couple of people that don't work well, why they don't, how to detect that, and how to, if we need to separate people, fine. Right? What's up, Kevin? How you doing? So, anyway, I'm going to go on mute. I've made my point.
I'm just going to jump in there for 2 seconds and say, yeah, I agree with that again. Everything. I think just what's happening here is that frustrations are creeping in a small bit, and it's only obvious because there are already a number of, you know, topics and conversations over the last couple of weeks, and they're already breaking down. And as we have been doing there, or as Jamin has been doing, breaking up the block party into different segments of conversation, trying to cover the number of conversations that we've been having and topics that we've been talking about. But now there's more there's more those conversations, topics that you established little blocks for during the 24-hour period. Those little blocks are, as Jamin said, are kind of being spliced into other little cubes of cheese and other conversations already. And obviously it's going to create frustration for us here now because we don't have the numbers to break off it, to having separate conversations about those little blocks of things. So we all have to have patience and accept our frustration, because that is what is happening here. Like, we're getting frustrated with the fact that, like, you know, I understand where Les was coming from. He have his concerns about AI. I understand where Emery comes from. I understand Nolan where he's come from. I understand where James is coming from. I hope someone understands what I'm talking about. But the point is, our frustrations are being built on simple lack of, as James said, moving forward. But some of us want to move forward with one particular conversation as per other. We're just going to have patience. That's all we have to have, is patience with each other for a while. And if we can agree to have patience with each other for a while here, while there is only a few number, until such time as the numbers grow anyway, if we just can agree to have patience and accept that we all do have topics that we want to talk about here, I'm sure we all do. Obviously, this is what the conversation is about tonight. But I think we should have a general consensus now, like that. Jamin's right in what he's saying. I accept everybody's premise or everybody's conversation here tonight, and I respect everything that everybody wants to talk about, and they're all essential to this whole situation. But we're going to have to focus, because there's only so few of us, on the priority. And I think we should take, a back seat with some of the other things for a little while. Not take a back seat, no. Allocate the time, as Jamin's been doing every week. We'll talk about that for an hour. Maybe we'll break them down into half hours if we can, or hour conversations, or half-hour conversations instead of 2 hours or whatever. Or be a little bit more strict on the time of those little segments, the time that we allocate for a subject, just so that we can at least facilitate everybody who wants to talk about something while the numbers are low at the moment. But we need to have patience with each other. and we need to have patience and respect for Jamin for what he's trying to provide for us here. And we don't want it to fall apart, none of us, because we are all here in agreement with one thing: this is the way to go. So let's respect that and respect each other's, you know, frustrations, but have patience as well with each other. That's all I'm suggesting.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, James. All right, Jim has his hand raised. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I think there's certain things just inherent in group settings, you know what I mean? And everybody who has their heart in the right place and is so very well intended, I think sometimes people will put themselves out there, and sometimes there's potential for people's feelings to get hurt. But we're beyond the time where we can worry about whose feelings are getting hurt here. You know, I mean, we're way beyond, we're 50 years beyond the time when we could consider everybody's, you know, hurt feelings. Not that people should be treated rudely at all, but on the other hand, if somebody's in a conversation that they just can't tolerate or swallow, you know, I sometimes run into that with this group, you know what I mean? There seems to be interests and tolerances for all kinds of things that can never be proven. You know, there's no objective criteria for a lot of people's conversations and speakers, you know what I mean? It's a little bit, to me, not really fixing the problem at hand, you know? And some in the group really warm up to that kind of a discussion. You know, sometimes in me, I don't have much patience for that kind of a discussion, because I don't feel like, you know, spiritual, we're beyond that. You know, you're not going to build the nuclear bomb by praying for it at this point, you know what I mean? And it's not out there in the universe, you know what I mean? We're just a planet in a vast universe. And I'm more of the position of, you know, natural selection, man. If you can't see it with natural selection, I don't feel like we have the luxury of going too far into the ethereal conversations. But again, that's my tolerance. You know, my tolerance is different from other people's tolerances, but I just tune out, man. It's like, if I don't feel like I want to be in that conversation, you know, and I feel like it's a waste of my time, I'm going to tune out, you know. And I feel like that's where you, I think, are very, when you start these things, you don't care who speaks, you don't care who comes, you don't care who goes. And I think that's the safest way of doing this, you know, just kind of letting everybody chime in. And if you can find that diamond that's out there that has the right idea, you know, hopefully it'll come to the surface somehow. And that's kind of a wing and a prayer, but that's where we're at, man. I don't think we don't have anybody that knows how to do it all yet, you know. So I think we have to have a wide range of tolerance, and we can't be too sensitive to how we get stepped on from time to time. And, you know, I mean, we're all adults going at this, man. So we have to realize the stakes what the stakes are, and what everybody's here to try to do. And, you know, just be grateful for, like you are very grateful for the people who do log on, and you're very willing to hear people like me, you know, who don't really know how to fix it, but care enough to be here. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jim. Well, you know, I really believe, you know, you yourself may not have the answer, but you have parts of the answer that you may not even be aware that you have, right? You know, that time that you were in the operating room where you had to think fast and, you know, commandeer this piece of equipment that wasn't even supposed to be used for that to save somebody's life. You know, click, 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 some tumblers clicked in the process that you haven't forgotten. They may be in your subconscious. You may have thought, oh, whatever, I just did what I had to do at the time. But you learned something from that you can now bring to this. I'm just using a hypothetical example since you come from the medical field. We all have stuff to contribute. And it's very, very important that we tend to the garden and make sure that we have people working together in harmony. on an agreed upon goal. And again, that's where the multi-lane is just going to nail it, right? We just got to get to critical mass. Right now, we're an ice cream shop with one flavor, right? It's, you know, it's Nolan and Jamin and James and Jim and Stephanie and Kevin and Emery and Glenn and Dylan and whoever's calling in from 808 area code. I'm just going to say 808. It's the secret sauce that we're cooking up. That's the flavor that we're selling right now. And that's it. That's all we got. If you don't like this mashup flavor, you're in the wrong room. Well, there's only one room. So, but we just got to stick it out and pioneer this, right? We just got to stick it out. Maida, welcome back. I see you've been popping in and out, and we're just kind of hot on the trail of a really intense conversation about collective superintelligence itself and what it's going to take, right, to get Henry Ford's prototype automobile out of the garage and onto the streets of Detroit, right? Anyway, Emery has his hand up, and if folks want to chime in, please do. And if you're on the phone, feel free to just speak up, because obviously you can't see us and it's harder to know when to jump in. So if you're on.
Hey, Jamin, yeah, it's all about the secret sauce, you know, and you know, am I talking?
Oh yeah, you're talking. The person dialing in we're getting some feedback from them, and we don't know who they are or that they know that they're not muted. Okay, thank you, telephone person. Back to you, Emery.
Okay, back to the secret sauce, and that was a good example of what I was chiming in to say, is that you know, we have to keep in mind the context of what's going on with our meetings. You know, we're often in a context of a certain discussion, right? And people are joining us. We want people to join us, obviously, you know, and no one is arriving at the same time. You know, people come and they go, right? But as people come in, you know, they have to be kind of aware to a certain extent, generally speaking, about what the context is before they really, you know, get involved. You know, it's nice to welcome, and obviously we respect fully. Well, you know, we show our respect, and that's what's very important. You know, is to be respectful. But you know, we have to keep the context clear, so that we don't stray too far away, you know, and get confusion into the into our work, you know, into the meeting. Pass it over.
Totally. You know, you're inspiring me, Emery, to do a focused recording, which we could do right now if we wanted to, on context. Why are we here? And we just riff. Yeah, Nolan, go ahead.
Can we start a new recording to do that? Because it's been almost 4 hours.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's stop the current one. And